All right, everyone.
Hey,
Welcome to the stream.
we're back.
We're back. Yeah, sorry we haven't streamed in maybe what, a week and a half, 2 weeks?
About a
Uh
week and a half.
yeah, a week
Yeah, a
and a
week
half.
and a half.
Um
We had a bit of a
but we're
brief
back.
hiatus.
Yeah, sometimes we need a little break, but it's good to be back. Um
Absolutely.
I don't
We've
think we
already got
really
3 people here.
I know. I like it. I enjoy it. I
Soon
was
we might have
actually
4 or even 5.
Don't get crazy now. Don't get
Oh
crazy now.
man.
But it's so funny, like because we were gone for like a week and a half or something. I had like a small amount. I had like a small moment of anxiety. I'm like, is anyone actually gonna? Is gonna do they remember us, Kyle? And I'm like, it's good
Oh,
to
they'll
know
be
that
back. No,
some
no, no.
people
I
remember
didn't
us.
have that fear at all. I knew that we
That's
had
good to
loyal
know.
viewers.
That's good to know. Um, so yeah, no, I think we're just going on. We're just gonna. There's no set agenda really. Though I finished Physical 100.
Yeah.
Um,
Your thoughts on that?
I kind of fell asleep in the finale.
Why?
I know
Oh,
who won.
was it because like some of them you just have to like wait for them until someone fails, sort of thing, or?
Yeah, I think I just got maybe I was just so bored of it, and I was tired, and then I just fell asleep. And I know who wins, but my wife told me that there was a little bit of controversy about the. So there was. Did you hear there was like a bit of a controversy about the finale?
No, I didn't hear anything. But I haven't really been a part of the discourse because I'd be scared of what like the average English speaker would think about
Oh
the
no, this
show.
is in Korea. This is
Oh,
in Korea.
okay. Thank goodness. No, but
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't really heard any of the discussion.
So my wife was saying that, and I might get this wrong, but the gist of it was that there were a couple of like technical difficulties with the apparatus. So like the final challenge was about like pulling this rope,
Oh
right?
my God, yeah.
So in the show, it sort of looked, in the cut of the show that you see on Netflix, it just seems like it was a smooth competition, and the way they edited it together, it didn't seem like there was any problem, right? But
Yeah.
supposedly, so what comes out afterwards is that I think there were like 3 or 4 stoppages
Wow.
in during the whole competition during that like final mission, or what they call them,
Yeah.
right, or quest, and I think the first one was that like some guy like the rope broke, or like that they noticed that like the apparatus wasn't working correctly, so they had to stop
Hmm.
and fix it. And then something else like and then something else happened, like maybe someone got injured or something like that. Something happened, so then they had to stop again. And it took so long, or the competition itself was, they were like, "Oh, do you want to continue? We've been here a long time, I guess, or do you want to like, go for tomorrow?" And I guess like there was just some controversy around. I forget whether they chose to come the next day, or they were just like, "We'll just continue going on." But there was a controversy because no one would have known that. Like, they edited it
Yeah.
together to make it look like it was completely smooth, and it wouldn't have changed like the outcome, I don't think. But like
Yeah,
there
I
was
don't
just
think
a little
so.
bit of
No, I
controversy
mean,
about like.
I guess the most immediate analogy that comes to my mind, it might not be appropriate for the show, but I'm gonna say it anyway. It sounds like it's a porno shoot in the sense that you think it's all happening at once, but turns out they usually do it across like 2 or 3 shoots or something. And I guess part of the illusion that they give is that it's all done in one shot.
Yeah, no, but
And
it's all edited together. I
yeah, no,
mean,
exactly. And like
yeah,
with pulling that rope, I mean, the diameter of the spool itself was like, 6 feet tall or something. And
yeah.
like, you just can't tell how big that core is, if it's just going to be a couple layers of rope or if it's going to be rope all the way down to the center of that spool. So I had no idea what to expect. And actually, I am a little bit disappointed to hear that they had to break it up for production's sake.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't too happy with the final like quest. Like I thought they could have come up with something a little bit more um dynamic. Like maybe make that rope thing like part of it.
Yeah.
But like that was the whole thing. Like it just seemed uh kind of lazy and like a letdown from how great so many of the other
Yeah, because I guess
challenges
how do
were.
you top moving that giant wooden ship with the
True,
barrels in it?
true.
It's just like, oh man.
Well, you can set up like a really big obstacle course or something, you know, just multi-stage event, like, but just to have them sort of face each other and pull a rope between their legs, like that, just I don't know.
There was
And
definitely a mismatch in the difficulty of things because I'm remembering like, holding up the rock, the punishment of Atlas versus just like trying to run across the sand and grab the torch. Like the difficulty and discipline
yeah,
required between both of those things is very different. And I just feel bad for
definitely.
like I feel bad for that one young woman that couldn't even lift the rock. It was too heavy. Or not even
Yeah,
too
because like
heavy, it
they
was
didn't
just
have,
too
like
unwieldy. Yeah.
yeah. I felt bad. Like, and the last like one of the final four challenge, which was like flipping the tiles.
The tiles, yeah.
I'm like, okay, like I guess it's a lot more physically demanding than you might think.
Yeah.
Just because I think the tiles are not like paper pieces of paper. They're like ceramic tiles or plastic, like some sort of tile that's a little bit heavier than you might
Yeah, like
expect,
5 pounds sort of
something
thing.
like that. So then, and like just it's an awkward position. So like you're either on your hands and knees scooting around, which is probably the better form, or you're hunched
Yeah,
over,
bent
which
over.
is like totally the wrong thing to do. So like that wasn't so bad. But it was just sort of boring to me. I'm like, oh my god, yeah, like they had the boat, they had the bridge, they had all these, like, even just the hanging, which is
Yeah.
the first one. That was like just kind of, it was simple, but they made it exciting by like the floor goes away and it's a water pit and like
And
the whole
everyone's
thing, and
hands
everyone's hanging
hanging.
from the same thing, and
Yeah.
people are dropping and splashing in the water, and they don't even like go out of the water. They're just on the edge of the of the pool, right?
Yeah.
So like it was a disappointing ending to the show. It was like they didn't know how to end it well, because there are plenty of other examples, like the Titan game show I talked about,
Mhm.
where it's like the final challenge is this obstacle course, right? And it has all different types of things you need to do. Like there's agility, there's strength, there's balance, there's all sorts of like skills you need to have. So you can't just be like the brute strongest person. You
Yeah.
need to like you need to have other skills, right? To win.
Yeah.
Um,
But all of them are tested across that
yeah,
same obstacle
exactly. And
course.
it's like
Yeah.
it's a head-to-head competition, right? So it might not necessarily be you competing like in the like with the wrestling thing. But at least you're on the same course and like you can see them where they are, and like there's excitement there. Pulling the rope is just not exciting.
Yeah.
And
The only
Alex
thing
said
that
that,
makes it interesting at all is like when people are getting tired and there's still
yeah,
like 200 feet of it left. But at the
yeah,
beginning, it's just like, okay, you're pulling the rope and it's going along. Okay,
yeah.
I guess we got another 30 or 40 minutes of this until you start getting tired.
Right, right. Because they're that fit, right? Like
Mhm.
they could probably go at a pace where I'd be tired in like 5 seconds. They could go
Yeah.
at that pace for like you know 30 minutes at least. Um,
I forgot. There was one of the challenges where I know one example was having to like 4 guys competing running around the track and you have to tag the person in front of you. And
yeah, the running one.
yeah, and it's sort of like you need to be doing that for like a good like 5-6 miles before people start even getting tired and it starts getting interesting.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, they didn't show the time, other than like the Atlas one where there were
Mhm.
like 30 minutes. Like that was crazy.
No, I thought like 2 hours, like 2 hours holding that shit up.
That's why it was like 2 hours that they held it
Yeah,
up.
it's
And like they had to
absolutely
edit that
insane.
together to be like, okay, how are we gonna make this exciting when all they're
Yeah,
doing is standing there holding this thing? And for like 90% of the time they make it look easy, like they're not even moving. Um,
that's absolute torture. I mean, I think it's
oh
bad
my
enough to
god, torture.
stand somewhere and not do anything for 2 hours. The next step would be standing somewhere and holding your arms up for 2 hours. But then to have your arms held up holding like 100+ pound boulder while standing still for
Oh,
2 hours?
insane.
No,
Yeah.
dude. No.
No, yeah. So yeah, so Alex is saying that there's extreme criticism of skepticism, sorry, of game shows in Korea. Like 4 of the most popular music act competitions in the past 5 years were literally rigged. Really? Like they were rigged? Damn.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know there is a skepticism of this sort of stuff in
I mean, I'm
Asia.
not surprised, but like wow, like
Yeah.
literally rigged. Yeah.
I guess
Anyway,
that's how the industry goes.
yeah, I mean, you could say every one of these competitions, even like in America, right?
Mhm.
Like there's a element of rigging
Absolutely.
in that like there are definitely people that the producers want to win, right? Because they're like, I can market this person, like I feel like I can sell them, right?
Yep.
And though I do think that there are people who have won those competitions that the producers didn't want to have win. So maybe they do vote, and it's a little bit fair. It's fair in America, but they definitely plug like yeah, this person we know can we can sell this person. So we're gonna try to like do everything we can as judges to like
And try and
build
help
them
them
up.
progress.
Yeah. The people could vote, but the votes were rigged. Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe they did. Well, we'll have to look it up. Like, I'm not surprised. Like the industry, they're gonna want that person, right?
Yeah, they want to keep us captive as an audience. So, if we've got certain contestants that are favorites, I'm not surprised at all.
No. Um.
But I guess what did you think about the conclusion? Did you
Oh, like who
I don't even
won
I
or
don't even remember people's names anymore. It's been like 2 weeks at this
yeah,
point,
I don't.
and I already have trouble remembering people's names even if I'm like in the situation itself. But I guess just generally, like, how did you feel about the conclusion? Did you feel disappointed? Did you feel like, yeah, it seems about right? Did you have any particular thoughts?
I mean, other than what we just said about, I think it was a little disappointing the competition at the end. The way that they set it up.
Yeah, like the stakes.
Yeah, or like just the rope pulling thing. They could have had a more exciting competition for the end, like
Yeah,
quest. Other than that, like I guess I was a little surprised that the CrossFitter won because
me too, dude. Me too.
I think CrossFit it was too overhyped, and then I think it was too sort of criticized. So it hasn't quite maybe because it's just not like hyped up anymore, so people just don't talk about it. But it
Yeah,
might have gotten like a better, maybe there's like a more reasonable understanding of it.
yeah.
But like I come from it more from the like my experience with it is of just sort of kind of being a hater of it because it was so hyped up and like they have the most fittest person in the world competitions, right? And there's sort of this cult sort of like a cultish multi-level marketing type of like
That's been my read of
scammy
it.
type of thing around
It's made
CrossFit.
me skeptical,
Right.
especially when there's sort of at least in the United States,
Yeah.
sort of white nationalist, sort of reactionary right wing
Oh, is
elements
there in there that too?
undercurrent in the culture.
I
Yeah,
stopped paying attention to it when it was just sort of like people were so obsessed with it. So I was like that culty vibe sort of drove, but I don't think from the beginning, or at least I didn't know in the beginning, that had any sort of right wing
yeah. I
connotations.
guess it's
But
sort of like it doesn't necessarily have that as a part of its like
I don't think it's
uh
part of its core mission
yeah,
or
nah,
core
it's like
whatever.
not part of the core mission, but
Yeah.
like notable leaders
Oh,
and like
really?
notable
Okay.
gym runners sort of had that
Oh,
political
yeah.
ideology, and the people that they were bringing into CrossFit as like a discipline,
Right.
had similar sorts of beliefs, and then there's sort of an undercurrent of that
Right.
stuff in the sport as a whole.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, but from a fitness aspect or like the way they train, there were some people who were like, who know what they're talking about, like in the fitness industry, that would criticize it because
yeah, that's what I've heard.
it didn't really there wasn't an emphasis on sort of like safety or
That
anything like that.
that was
Like,
gonna be the thing that I brought up. Just like
yeah,
it, my stereotype of CrossFit is that you're doing all kinds of like crazy, like bordering on like dangerous shit.
Yeah.
that could probably fuck up your spine real bad.
Yeah. And there
That's
was
my
like an
general read.
epidemic, a lot of these gyms. I forget what in CrossFit what they call them. They don't call them gyms. They call them something else.
Yeah, I'm
But
not sure.
they're gyms, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, there was all this news about how like the gyms that were run like really poorly and didn't have like a lot of sanitary conditions, and because a box, a
A
box.
gym is a box.
No, I think that's what CrossFit calls them, is a box. Anyway, so
I think that's dumb as shit. But
it's weird, but you know what? To build like a brand and try to be like we're different from just a gym, you got to come up.
This
with
is
a
not
name.
a gym; it's a box.
It's a box.
Step into the box.
It's a cube. The CrossFit Cube. But yeah, so like there was this there were like people would just get these like infections or like these sicknesses would like come.
Yeah.
Not like I don't think it was meningitis, but like it was some sort of like they had always had like athlete's foot was running like just it just seemed like dirty. It's like what
those weird rashes that you can get when people don't wipe the machines off at the gym.
Stuff like that because it's like so hardcore. Like we don't and
sweating, we don't give a shit. We just keep going.
And but from so I think there were some fitness people who would criticize it because of like the lack of safety. But then, but what I do think that CrossFit got right is that they weren't doing just sort of like weightlifting, right? Just to lift the weights. And they weren't doing these like sort of really isolating like one muscle or one or two muscle type of exercises. Like they do pull-ups, they do like they do like squats and stuff like full. It seemed that it was like more full body stuff. It wasn't
engages all the major muscle groups across
and
the body.
It was like high intensity. So like I think there is some science behind that. Like you don't just go to like the bench press machine and bench press and like do curls for your arms and stuff. Like if you do like more full body, but like also with weights, so like squats and like and they do like a lot of the burpees and like all like and you sort of get the cardio aspect because they're just going like full speed. And so I think there is, from that perspective, I think that they have a point about like how they train is more realistic and engages your whole body. And then that sort of builds a lot of strength, and it can, right? Like some of these crazy ass like CrossFitters, they look big and they lift heavy and like they seem athletic and like explosive and agile and all that stuff. So I wasn't necessarily surprised about that. I think some people were really surprised because like especially since there were so many like Olympians and other people. And
like national team members, like Olympic gold medal winning contestants.
So, well, I mean like the skeleton guy and everything. And so, but then you realize, what you realize is like, other than like the cyclist who did really well, like the cyclist guy who did a lot better than I think people thought he was going to do.
Expected a cyclist would.
And because he also looked dumpy, like he didn't look like the chiseled
exactly
body. And the skeleton guy, and like, but I think what you realize that like the people who just look good and like have TikToks and Instagrams and like lift heavy like that, really, like the guy who was married to that married couple, like that huge guy, like,
and he looked like a fucking cartoon character.
He didn't do well.
Yeah.
Like, and his wife was not very strong at all. Like
she couldn't do
many
that.
more women did
like
a lot better.
When she volunteered to climb the rope, she was like, well, I haven't climbed a rope before. I'm just going to try my best.
Well, no one else wanted to do it, right?
Whoops.
It was like one of the things that I was good at growing up was climbing a rope, and I was very good at it.
Huh.
And I can probably still decently climb a rope, but like you need to you use your feet more than you use your arms.
When that rescuer guy, like the mountain rescuer guy, won it, it seemed like it was mostly he was staying in position by locking his feet.
So you wrap the rope around your leg, and then you use your other foot. So you're basically standing on your own foot. So the rope and your foot the rope is between your feet,
Between your feet, yeah.
and you're basically just standing on the rope, but you're standing on yourself. Like you're using your own weight, and you can basically stay up there for as long as you want, like a long time.
I don't know. I was never good at climbing the rope, so I never got to a point where I could put my foot under another foot.
Oh. you only need almost like your a little body. You only need you obviously need some upper body weight strength, but you don't. If you can get up that first little bit and then get on your get like that foot wrapped around and you get standing on your own like foot, you almost need no arms. You can just you just sort of cinch your way up, and you just got to keep you got to keep contact with the rope.
Your feet locked,
but you're just sort of shimmying up. It's actually it's not that hard. Like you do have to practice it, but yeah. So I was like, this dude, he knows how to climb a rope. Like he's gonna get up there and he's just gonna chill. Like he could have kept doing it. Like he could have been up there all day. He could have just done that.
It seemed like it. He didn't seem tired even right at the end when he won. And the other guy was just like, I don't know if I can do this for more than another minute.
Because I knew he was not going to do it because he went up with too much of his, like when he was climbing up, he climbed too fast and he was using his arms.
Yeah, mostly his arms.
And I'm like, you're just going to get tired, man. Like your legs are stronger than your arms. That's just anatomy, right? Like what's holding you up? Your legs, not your arms.
And I'll tell you this, being in the States, being used to places like the Midwest or Texas, one thing I definitely noticed when I was in Korea is there's a hell of a lot of inclines, very steep, greater than 45-degree inclines. It's like no wonder Korean people have strong legs. My God. Like, I barely use my leg muscles in comparison to the average Korean person, even if they're like 70 years old and not really doing anything.
Yeah, no, I mean...
That's real.
Yeah, well, Korea's a lot hillier, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, like, I was just disappointed with the end. I wasn't that surprised that the CrossFitter won. I think they proved, the CrossFitters did pretty well in the competition. They sort of proved
surprisingly well, yeah, consistently.
At least the top CrossFitters, the way they train is, overall builds a lot of strength and agility and things like that. So what I also didn't like is that the last quest didn't sort of take any brain power, right? It didn't take any planning.
Yeah, any like strategizing or like,
any of that.
At most, it would just be like planning your pacing, but that's really about it. And pretty much all of the quests up to that point required that anyway. So
yeah, so it was a little disappointing of an ending, but I think they're already planning on a season 2.
I wouldn't be surprised because I was really surprised.
Right?
I was really surprised at how popular it got just internationally as a whole. I mean, that's happened before with Korean shows like Squid Game and things like that. But since this featured real people and it was more of a reality show, I am really surprised at how popular it got. I mean, even if it is kind of a novel concept. So,
yeah, but I think it was very clear that they had hopes that it was going to be more an internationally popular show because they didn't edit it and they didn't produce it in the way that they would have if it was going to be just a Korean domestic show.
You're absolutely right. None of that like big bubble text.
Yeah, none of the big
like
bubble
every
text.
Other sentence that people say.
Minimal sort of like of those micro replays, like not a lot of that. They didn't have like a commentary team, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Like the variety
like
shows.
None of the hallmarks really of how Korean domestic shows are sort of done. So I think they definitely had, or at least they hoped, maybe they were just like, we're going to do it differently. But I think they had an eye towards like, this is
probably because I mean, with this coming after Squid Game, yeah, that makes sense to me. Intentionally trying to make it so that it appeals to as wide of an audience internationally as possible.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that it caught on in the West like it did, it still surprises me because I think what interests me most that I haven't actually seen either in person or on video or whatever is like white people watching this show and like hearing all these Korean names and like seeing all these Korean people, and like I want to see. I think it would be just as interesting to watch white people watching this show as watching the show itself is, because I have no idea how they're going to react, or like, you know, how racist the reaction's going to be. Because I don't know if like this show is productive in the sort of fantasy that we spin for ourselves when it comes to like narratives of equity and inclusion and representation. That like the more you see these people in
Well, the
sort of
Koreans
human
don't care about that
capacities,
shit. Like,
no, exactly.
why? Like, it's a show called it's a Korean show where like 95 of the people were all Korean, and they had like 5 non-Koreans. Like, what? They don't have that same. They don't have that same neurosis,
Yeah,
right? So like,
absolutely.
so it's like it's not like that's not even consideration.
But
Like that
I
Floridian
think
guy, right?
that's probably like 50% of the appeal when it comes
Yeah.
to being able to cross over into multiple countries and audiences that wouldn't otherwise watch it. It's still very interesting to me nonetheless, because when we're talking about like Asian American stuff, that is at the forefront. That is the number one sort of thing or consideration.
Right, which I
And
think which I think stunts our art, right? It stunts our
absolutely,
creativity, right? It's
absolutely.
like um like in a I don't like Bling Empire because I think it has a lot of other problems like worship of wealth and the the valorization of, you know, excess and like all that stuff. And I also
Yeah.
just think those people are boring as hell. But uh
Yes.
it's one redeeming quality, I think, is that it well, and maybe this is wrong, but at
Say
least
it.
what I've seen of what I saw of the first season of it, that was set the one that was set in LA, not Bling Empire, New York,
Yeah.
but like the original cast, is that it wasn't really for a white audience, right? It was just sort of like, we're rich and we're Asian, we're just gonna
Yep.
this is our lives, and like we're gonna, you know, it maybe because they were so rich that like they don't have to care about representing or being representation, right?
It's
It's just
such
sort of
an
was like,
interesting contrast
yeah,
in the sense that like they are being themselves without really needing to think about how it looks or how it's presented from like a cultural or
right.
racial
So they look
standpoint
like
because of
shit
the
most of the
class
time.
position.
They look like
Right.
buffoons most of the time.
Right. But at the same time, like I feel like even me, you know, someone that's not an Asian person in Asia, I look at the stuff they're doing on Bling Empire and I'm like, you guys are basically just doing like white people shit, but just together as Asian people and talking about Asian people aesthetics, like Asian food or Asian parents. But at the end of the day, when I compare that to like Asian people in Asia, this is not Asian at all. Like like none of the sort of basic like social rules that you'd see in Asia are
Oh yeah,
followed. Like no one's humble, anything like that. Like
no,
regardless of class, just like no one tries to even put on an air of being sophisticated or modest or humble or whatever.
no, but
And
they're being, you know, honest. This is who
yeah,
they are,
they're
right?
being
So
their
they're not
natural selves,
right,
natural Asian American selves.
right. They're being their natural Asian American selves, right? They're not trying to be Asian, like as the same as like what a Korean person who lives in Korea would be like, or Chinese person living in China. And I prefer that prefer them just being themselves than doing anything else. Like even if I think they're buffoons, right? Even if I don't want if I don't I don't necessarily like that. And I think in overall it's like not good. But I didn't like Jersey Shore. It's not like because they're
No,
Asian doing it. Like
exactly.
I just didn't like it overall. I just don't
Yeah,
like that.
I just don't like your
But
vibe. I don't like your
yeah,
lifestyle. I mean, as a
but
human being, you know, I'll respect your dignity, but that's about it.
but it's better than like fucking Ken Jeong, like
Oh
in
yeah,
Hangover. It's
yeah.
better than that shit. Like
It's
Bowen
like
Yang and like SNL. Like it's better than that.
yeah, because I feel like it's that straight sort of like 5 to 6 out of 10 on the scale of progress and representation, where it's pretty neutral, and anything that's embarrassing about it more has to do with rich people sensibilities and being out of touch than it has to
Right.
do with anything being Asian.
Right.
Unlike with Ken Jeong and Bowen. So
Fucking hell. Yeah. It was funny. So like I'm looking at just to completely do out of the blue topic here, but
whatever.
so
Switching it up.
I'm browsing Twitter, right? And Jack Jack comes up and she's always
Yeah.
posting like the deals and other things she's doing.
Sure.
And she posted something about like these plush like
She's
plush
talking about plushes, man.
and
It's one of her bits.
Yeah, so like my wife came home like what was this, like maybe a couple of weeks ago with one of those squishmallows or squishmallows, which is
Okay.
like a brand of these plushies. And I
Yeah.
think it's super popular, this brand. And they came out. I don't think she got the Pokemon ones, but they make the Squishmallow brand. They make like the official
Okay. The officially
Pokemon
Nintendo
ones,
licensed
right? Yeah.
Pokemon plushes.
And so I was like, oh, we were just out, and then I was like, oh, let's go to Target because I want to see what they have. And she's like, you're not going for the Squishmallow. I'm like, I just want to see what they have. So
Yeah.
they actually had the 20-inch big special edition Pikachu Squishmallow.
Yeah.
That was sold out for like weeks. And I was like, they have one. And she's like, I'm not letting you buy that. I'm like, you're a grown ass man. You're in your 40s. You're not buying.
You can if you want to.
I didn't buy it, but I just found it funny. So that I just reminded of that when I was going through the plushies that Jack Jack is talking about.
Nah, dude. I mean, at this point, like the toy market, plush market, whatever, it's mostly targeted towards adults over the age of 21.
I know,
and I am okay with that.
Yeah, I guess.
Whatever.
But it's sort of like you're also taking away from children. I was like,
fuck those kids.
So we didn't take it. I mean, he doesn't like Pikachu, so it's not like I would have taken away from my nephew. But he already has, he has so much already. But I did feel a little embarrassed. I was like, I'm not going to buy this, so I didn't buy it.
No,
like,
man,
it's so rare.
I mean,
it's so rare. I should just get it.
Part of the journey of just accepting yourself as an adult is indulging those things and not feeling embarrassed about it. So I'm gonna encourage you next time, if you see that shit, just buy it. Don't feel ashamed.
Yeah, I should. Yeah.
Yeah, you should have said to your wife, it's either the Pikachu or the Kia Stinger. So it justifies the Pikachu a lot more.
Yep. Yep.
You reading something right now?
Yeah, no, sorry. Just
no, it seems like something caught your eye.
You know what? And this is just another random topic, but
no,
sometimes
this episode is called Whatever's on Our Mind.
That's true.
So this is what's on your mind.
So, and this is sort of, I think this is tangentially related, just because we talk about like, wokeness and I think just culture and sort of the craziness, I think just the craziness about how some people just don't know what's like acceptable socially, and I think also like the excessive shaming and like the clout chasing people will do online, and like they'll exaggerate stuff just to like get likes, but it's like no one. So
being on Twitter, dude, that's what it's all about.
Well,
it gives me brain damage every day.
All social media, but this was just something because YouTube will feed you shorts and stuff. So I must have been watching something about this, but do you know who Joey Swole is?
I think so.
But you've probably heard this because it's gone viral, and
because he was like, "Don't bring cameras to the gym and fucking scrutinize them. Just leave people alone." Like that guy.
Yeah. So he's like, I didn't know who he was, because it just came in my feed because of other people, I think, replying to it, or it just got so viral that it ended up on my feed as well. But he
Sure.
basically takes like both male, like men and women who try to shame other people, right? So like, but he's gotten most famous because of his reactions to some women trying to basically say like these guys are creeps at
Yeah,
the
like
gym.
these guys are looking at me all creepy, and it's just like
Yeah,
you have your
and
camera pointed at like the most visible place in the gym, and they're just walking by.
right, and uh, right. So like people just, yeah. So, and it wasn't just Joey sort of like taking them to task. Like other people were sort of just mocking them and making fun of them.
Sure.
Uh, and but I guess just a couple of his videos came on like as shorts on YouTube, or other people sort of talking about how they agree with him, and it's like sort of crazy that like he has to say this, and like he's actually really, he's very fair-minded. He's not yelling at the people he's criticizing. He's just sort of saying, look, like you're wrong about this. Like the person could have been doing this for all these other reasons, and like you're the one filming at the gym, like, and it's just sort of insane that he needs to make these videos to tell people don't film in the locker room at a gym.
Oh yeah, the locker rooms in particular.
And it's mainly the ones that he's reacting to, of the locker room video takers, are men, right?
Yeah.
And these people are trying to post this video to be like, oh my God, how dare this person get angry at me for filming at the gym? This old man, he doesn't, I'm not doing anything wrong. Like, he's trying to kick me out. Like, and Joey Swole's like, what the fuck are you? He doesn't curse at them. He's just sort of like, it's illegal what you're doing. You
Yeah.
cannot film someone in a locker room. It's
Yeah, you might as well put the camera on the toilet at that point, you know?
And he's just sort of like, do better. Like, why are you doing this? And I think it's just kind of insane that he needs to make these videos at all. Like, what? No, like, what makes people think that it's okay to like film at the gym these videos, and then get all upset when other people are like, can you just not film me? Or the ones where like people are like, oh my God, they're being so creepy. I'm like, the dude's just, he's walking by you and he looks at you and then he keeps walking. Like,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
not harassment. And Joey Small has been saying, it's like, there are people who get harassed. Like, women do get harassed. Like, there are creeps, but these are not creeps. So like,
We're
you're
seeing it
doing
on video. We can see that it's clearly not what you're saying it is.
right. So it actually does harm. It doesn't help the situation for people to cry wolf, right? Like, if
Yeah.
you're like, crying wolf is going to make people, it's good. The backlash is going to make the situation worse,
It obfuscates the
right?
conversation.
Exactly. And the reason why, like, it reminded me of that, some of those things I was watching, is that, so brother Q, right, who I follow on TikTok, on Twitter, Cuban underscore links. That's his latest.
Oh yeah, Cuban Links,
Q,
aka
yeah. So
Q Anthony Omene. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think he goes to the gym a lot, right? And he's he's around my age, maybe a little bit older. And he responded to one where this guy, not even that, these fucking people who have like who has 2,510 followers, paid for the fucking blue check, right? Like, fucking
Yeah.
pathetic. So then he linked to this Asian woman's TikTok video
Yeah.
where she's, it's like a time lapse. Those things where people maybe take like a photo of themselves once, like one photo a day,
Yeah.
and then they do that whole big time lapse.
Yep.
And so she's stitched that together for her own TikTok, right?
Hmm.
And the guy sort of puts his own thing on it where I'll share it. I'll just share it.
Share it.
So his
Yeah.
his thing is like, oh, nothing ever happens, right? Like she's trying to show her progress, and yeah, okay, maybe she's there isn't a lot of progress. Okay.
Sure. Okay.
But whatever, okay. And then so he's sort of trying to shame her, being like, oh, nothing ever changes, right? Nothing happens.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, at least she's going to the gym. I haven't fucking gone to the
Yeah,
gym in many
exactly.
years. So
And
fuck.
why does he need to, like, he can think that privately. He'd be like, oh, nothing ever happened. Like, I get, dummy, you went to the gym 231 times in 2022 and you never made any progress. Okay. You can think that privately. But it's like when you put it online to try to shame this person, and Q is like, remember what that lonely scumbags like you are what keep new people out of the gym.
Yeah.
And oftentimes in semi-permanent states of body dysmorphia. Honestly, man, fuck anybody who does loathsome shit like this, right? He doesn't mean the woman's video. He means the mocking that this
the
guy
mocking.
added to it.
Yeah.
And he's right. Like, I
mean, the
commend
fact that
her
she
for
showed
going
up
to the gym
that many times to take that many
231 times.
Yeah.
She went like 2/3 of the, like, there are 365 days in a year. I mean, let's do the math. So 231 divided by 365.
That's around 2/3.
That's 63%.
Yeah, a little under 2/3.
Pretty fucking good. She went,
I haven't been to a gym since like 2016. Shit.
So she went 4 days a week, 5 days a week to the gym, 4 or 5 days a week to the gym.
Yeah.
If that, 2/3. So if it's 0.63% times 7. So she went 4.41 on average, right?
Wow.
So
yeah.
4 to 5.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's dedication.
Yeah.
Even if she's not changing her body that much.
Yeah. And honestly,
she's getting healthier. Even
if she wasn't working, which she probably is, like, I think it's still impressive to have like no other life and still show up to the gym at least 4 times a week.
So yeah, like, I don't care if your body never changes shape ever. Getting up and going to the gym on a regular basis is an unequivocal good, and anybody who would try to discourage that deserves to be torn apart by wild dogs. Yeah.
I agree.
Not everybody goes to the gym with body recomposition as their main or even secondary or tertiary goal. Like, what the hell was that tweet supposed to accomplish besides getting people to bully her? That's my point, right? Like, why even do that? Like, you're only doing it to feed your ego because people are going to like it, right? And people liked it. Like, people like this tweet. And this is probably the biggest tweet in this fucking loser's life.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because almost 1 million people now have viewed this tweet.
That's a pretty rough like to view ratio too. But anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, people are going to view it, right? Because at some point, for some reason, it got chosen by the algorithm, right? Yeah. It's been a couple of days, and then quote tweeting. So I think even if people hate it and they quote tweet it to like sort of hate on it, it gets people to view it. But not a lot of people like it, right? Like, a lot of people view this, but they're like, "That's bullshit, bro." It's like, that's me.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up. But it, most people aren't going to say that. They're just going to think it and move on.
So she could probably break their backs in half. So there's that. Right?
Yeah, no,
because
that's real.
Her channel is if she splits and split squats.
Even if this was her first year at the gym, doing 200+ days, I mean, yeah, she could probably break some backs. I know that I cannot. So shout out to her.
Walking into a gym and snapping a picture isn't enough to lose weight. Not everyone is trying to lose weight. It's like, if you even just take a moment to look at like her face, like, she obviously didn't just walk into the gym and like her face is flushed, like her hair, like you could tell that like she worked out.
Yeah.
She didn't just walk into the gym, take a photo and leave.
Exactly.
Like, these fucking people, man. I mean,
no, I think there's something
so sad
behind this, because like this sort of insecure nitpicking is the kind of shit that I would probably partake in when I was like in middle school and maybe high school, because I had my own insecurities.
Right.
But once you get past age like 17 and 18, you're out there in the wide open world beyond high school, and you realize that generally people are a lot kinder outside of that world of being in high school,
Right.
because there's just a lot of shit to navigate in adulthood. And to be in this mindset of wanting to take people down because they're not meeting your personal standard of what being fit is just reflective of just a very immature mindset. Very embarrassing shit.
You
I
should
mean,
watch Physical 100 and have to do something very humiliating when he guesses wrong who's going to do best in the competitions, right? Because
exactly.
he's just going to guess by aesthetics and then completely lose, right? Like the Atlas ball thing, right? You probably
Yeah.
you choose the whole like jacked like guy,
Yeah,
looks
the
all athletic,
bodybuilder guy
and
with the
then
wife who was there.
right, and then the guy who wins the two people who do the best have the most dad looking bods, right? They just have the least
Yeah.
aesthetic bodies, right? But
And
they're
s-
fucking strong and they will crush your head in two.
and I'll say
know?
this, like,
It's just
so
crazy.
I had a favorite young woman on the show. She wasn't one of the ones that like would be unexpected for me to like,
Right.
but I thought Utham was real cute. And she got eliminated, but then she did that challenge where you have to like hold the bust with the rope for as long as possible, and whoever lasts the longest gets to stay in the game. I mean, yeah, she killed it. And I actually don't remember where I was going with this. I just think she's real cute. So she was my favorite.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I think that and the people like this one is not, like Joey Swole. He replies to a lot more of the one, like the really famous one is of like, or the really hyper viral one is of that woman who's doing like the these funny exercises where they do like the hip flexor thing where they're basically just humping.
Yeah.
They use like the bar, but they're just doing the humping
Yeah.
exercise. I mean, it is a legitimate exercise. You get, you're exercising your hip flexors and all that stuff. But it looks just hilarious because you're
It does.
sort of just humping the air, right? And she's setting up the bar, and like she's talking about how the guy's like the guy's like
creepy.
behind her, and he's like he's like to her right and a little bit behind, and but her camera is pointed right at him because it's sort of at an angle, right? But it's pointed at him. So
Yeah.
like so she's probably in his peripheral vision, and then he kind of sees her messing around, and then sees the camera probably because she probably has it propped up or on a tripod so that he sees it, right? And then he's like pretty fit, big looking. So he's like I just assume by his shape that he is like a veteran gym goer. And before he even walks up to her, he just said, looked at her, like glanced at her, like not like staring like deeply in like her direction for like seconds and 20 seconds or something like that.
And no
He just like
lasers coming out
glanced
of his
at her.
eyes or anything. Yeah.
It didn't even make eye contact. He just glanced over there, right? Because she's making some noise. She's talking, right? Because she's making the video.
Yep.
And she's already like, oh my god, he's so feral. I hate
Such a
this.
creep.
I hate such a creep. Feral. I hope he like, all this stuff. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And there are people who will just continue to defend people who act like this because they're all about like, you got to believe every person, right? You got to believe the person who says they were attacked or that they felt uncomfortable. Like,
Mhm.
and I'm like, people. There's going to be a huge backlash to this, and it does worse for the actual harassment, right? Because there is
exactly.
harassment. Those people are going to be ignored. You cry wolf too many times, and then no one will take it. Like that's the story of Peter and the Wolf.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is shut your mouth until there's a real fucking wolf.
Until there's a real fucking thing going on.
The moral of that fable is not continue to cry wolf. That's not the moral of the story.
But
it doesn't do
since
you
there's
any
no
good, and it doesn't
consequences for constantly calling wolf.
Because in Peter and the Wolf, like people die. Like don't the villagers die? Like there's something. It's
Yeah,
not.
I think they do. Because that the final time when he was like, no, seriously, that shit
There's
is
a wolf.
coming. They're like,
Yeah.
no, we're not gonna believe you. Are you gonna confirm the death count
Yeah, I'm
via
gonna-
a Google
yeah.
search?
Plot. Okay. Oh, okay. So I'm wrong. Well, Peter is still the hero.
Oh, okay.
So I guess the duck dies though. The duck is eaten by the wolf. But he does get celebrated by the village because he ends up being able to single-handedly capture the wolf. So maybe people are not completely wrong because the fucking fable is worse than I thought.
Damn.
But the real moral of the story is that you shouldn't cry wolf. You know, it's not that you cry wolf and then you're the hero because you're so good that you can capture.
No, exactly.
Right? That is not really what it's supposed to be. But I guess that's what people. But I just think it's sort of it's just it's not good, and it's just sort of crazy that like people like Joey Swole and other like Jim go like that he can grow his audience even more by just sort of reacting to these videos and being like, "What are you
Cut that
talking
shit
about?"
out.
Yeah, like cut it out, do better, and people just don't want to do better. I guess like we're so fucking addicted to that dopamine rush of the like button and the
Yeah, and
hearts and
just
the
sort of a general status insecurity. People feel like they always need to say something that puts them in some sort of dominant position to be like, these people are creeps, these people suck. And it's just like, without any sort of consensus about what kinds of things makes a creep or makes for harassment or whatever, for every legitimate case, there's going to be, someone that is crying wolf, like you said.
yeah.
And there's no consensus around this. And this is the sort of stuff that, ends up in these endless arguments with no sort of resolution. So, I mean, these things are always interesting to me, especially looking at them in the West from my perspective, with a little bit of understanding that, outside of the United States, outside of the Anglophone West, there's a little bit more consensus about like when someone's really fucking up or when someone, might just be doing something that someone individually doesn't like, but is not bad enough to be calling out on
Right.
social media.
Right. I maybe I'm just old or I haven't been in the gym in a long time.
I think we're both old heads. At the end
Yeah,
of the
maybe
day,
maybe I'm just an old head. Like because there was a point in time where I was a fairly regular, like not for long, but like maybe a couple of years, many years ago, where I would go to the gym fairly regularly. But it hasn't been in a long time. But I was like, it was why would I want to record myself?
yeah.
If it's about form, there are mirrors in the gym. Always have been
Yeah.
mirrors in the gym. You can look at the mirror. You're in a public place. Like I wouldn't, but I'm not a person who wants to film public stuff anyway. Like film myself. I don't take
Yeah.
selfies that often. I don't just video
No, I know exactly what
myself.
you mean. I feel like if you live your life that way, trying to think about how to curate content out of your everyday actions, like how much are you really living? How much are you in the moment
Yeah.
when like you're thinking purely about what kinds of content you can produce? I mean, I'm very intentional about making sure that I don't think in that way because I feel like if I don't remember what I've done because I've been so focused on like having something to put on social media, that regardless of what I do or don't do in real life, it's a waste of my time because I haven't created some sort of memory that I can learn from or reflect on.
Yeah. Um I think we're just old heads, man. Like I
No,
just wouldn't
we're
even
old
think of
heads,
doing it.
like
And
pre-social media, internet old heads.
and you know, and like people like those videos of like the people like filming themselves in the locker room, and people will be like, and it's almost always like a older than that person guy who's basically telling, and a lot of times it is like an older gentleman who or person who's like in their 50s probably, and and like the person doing the recording is probably like in their
Yeah, like in their
20s or like
20s.
30s at the oldest,
Yeah.
and uh the other person is like, can you just turn that off? And a lot of
Yeah.
times they're pretty polite. They're like, is that on? Is that recording? And the person will be like, yeah. And they'll be like, can you just stop for a sec? And the other person will be like, what are you talking about?
Turn that shit off.
Yeah. And then the person who's filming was like, why would I do that? Like, you're not in it. Like, if you don't want to be in it, be over there. I'm like,
Yeah. Go over there. I'm
that's what they're
recording.
saying. Go over there. And I'd be like, no, just turn it off.
Yeah.
It's the fucking locker room. And then
Yeah. People are naked in there taking showers. Turn that shit off.
there was a crazy TikTok. One of the guys, he caught the guy naked behind him. He was trying to do like one of those dance videos in the TikTok, and the guy was naked behind him, and he posted it. But I guess he put, he
Yeah.
you
He
know,
censored it, mosaiced
censored
it.
it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, why are you doing that? What are you like? I think people have gone insane. Like that. Why do this? It's insanity.
I mean, the only thing that I can really think of is like you think of yourself so much as a main character in your own shit that you're not considerate of other people who have just as much humanity, just as much experience in life, and is deserving of like, not being filmed naked when you don't have their consent. Like just a basic lack of general empathy and
Yeah.
compassion sort of
And
shit.
then like try to frame it as like, oh my god, this person, how dare they
Yeah, why
change
the
in
fuck?
the
Why?
locker
Yo,
room and
chill,
ruin my
chill. Why the fuck
TikTok?
you getting so upset about this?
Right?
It's
Or
like,
like, why are
bitch,
you
you're
ruining
filming
my
me
TikTok?
naked.
Yeah. And the excuse that'll come out of their mouths is like, I'm taking a video to track my progress. I'm like, why are you doing it in the fucking
In the
gym?
locker room.
In the locker room of the gym. Go home and take a fucking picture.
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing it in the locker room of the gym, for Christ's sake? I would I would be I would not tolerate it.
But
Or
I
you
don't
just
know.
find
I
another
think
gym, right? You find another gym. Like you're gonna like if the gyms opened up and been, because the majority of people aren't doing this, right? The majority of
yeah.
people are not going and recording this and acting this way. I feel like there's a business opportunity for any gym out there, any of the chains really, or even like maybe a smaller one, right?
Yeah.
To be like, no video
Yeah, no
anywhere,
fucking cameras.
no cameras, strictly enforced. Strictly enforced.
Like a
And if they
Korean
did that,
spa.
yeah, like you're not fucking taking a video in a spa,
Yeah.
and people, they're not going to tolerate that. But like, I think that if some gym had that policy and they strictly enforced it, they would get more people to go. I think they would poach people from other gyms, because they just don't want it. And I think, maybe not ironically, but more maybe in not intentionally, but in effect would, I think they would get more women to go to that gym.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they should just have the influencer gym, let them do all that stuff
Yeah.
there,
The filming gym.
the filming gym,
And
the
then the
one that where
normal
you can
people
film
gym.
everything, and eventually, like those gyms, they're not all going to go out of business, right? But some of the gyms will die or have lower attendance, and I just think you should just do. I think there's an opportunity for that. Because it's just getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, like, if there's one thing that I just try to avoid, it's ironic because I'm saying this on like a podcast / stream, but I mean, I don't try and live my life trying to make content because I
Yeah.
think that is one, very stressful, and that's why like the content and title of this particular stream is whatever's on our mind, because I wasn't going to stress myself out all week thinking like, oh God, we need a topic for our show. It's super important that we have something for content. And I feel like just living your life in that way, like you're focused on that so much where you really are not living life. I mean, especially with like
Yeah.
the muscle pains and shit I've been dealing with
Yeah,
lately,
that's
it's
true,
just
right?
like, for me, it's just like, in order for me to enjoy my life the most, I really need to be in that moment. You know, like if I'm eating with friends at a restaurant, really enjoying the conversation,
Yeah.
really enjoying the food, not taking like 6 curated photos of the food and putting it on Instagram, or not like taking tons of group photos to prove that I have friends to other people. I mean, those moments that you take to do that take away from the energy of just really enjoying that particular occasion. And I mean, for me, as someone that's just been like fucking quarantined as fuck as a germaphobe during COVID, like I haven't really been going out much. So the last thing that I want to do is spending valuable time with someone that I have intentionally chosen to go out with to a place intentionally to just have something to share on social media. I don't fuck with that, but that seems to be just the general dominant sort of mindset. And especially because I don't know, I feel like this is like a relic of late capitalism in the
Mm.
sense that if you don't have prospects for like a really nice white collar job that pays 6 figures, then you got to think of any way possible to try and monetize your social media content to try and stay afloat. I mean,
Mm.
that's what it seems to be for me.
Yeah, for sure. Should have said to your wife it's either the Pikachu or the Kia Stinger. she'd actually probably prefer the Stinger because it's at least the car.
Yeah, it's utilitarian in some way.
But I think you're right in that like this is like if they don't have like prospects, right? Like they're trying to do something that'll make them money. And that one where like the woman was calling the guy feral and stuff like that, like she has an OnlyFans, right?
Yeah.
Which I think the prevalence of these online sort of self prostitution type of
I think it's
apps.
disturbing. You know, I think
Yeah, but
women they can do whatever they want. Whatever.
right. But that it's so many people doing it online.
Exactly.
And as the I don't
And
want to
there's
get
no
into a whole
real
debate.
consideration for like what does this mean?
Right.
Like what does this say about our society? And
Yeah.
what does
there are no
this say
prospects
about
for
like
people,
how
right?
I'll be received 20 years from now, sort of
Right.
thing.
Or like so many people getting into these like so many ads, like every ad, like every other ad it seems on YouTube is like some passive income
No, exactly.
thing, or make money from this, real quick.
Make money charging bird scooters in your local neighborhood.
Right. Or a lot of the people who like people getting into crypto, right? I feel like sort of the craze for crypto, excuse me, is indicative of that, right? Where
This is
people
an
are just
anti-crypto show.
oh, definitely
Saying it right now.
Yeah, but like people really like not, and it's not like people lost a lot of money with that, right? And it's like regular ass people, but I think people are pushed into that in a way,
Yeah.
more people than they would have, because they weren't going into sometimes they're going into meme stocks, but for the most part they're not going into the stock market. But they're looking for a quick way to make money, or like what they feel is like the next stock market, right? Because they were all too, they're too young, or we missed the train on all of the big tech stocks, or like the old,
No,
Apple,
exactly. Like you
IBM.
can't buy Amazon at like $5 a share back in 1998, sort of shit.
Right.
And
so you're looking for crypto and stuff like that, but it's just
framed as like regular people taking back the economic system by using the economic system that oppresses them in the first place. So
right. Especially
there's an irony
since,
to it.
right. It's not, yeah. Especially because the people who actually make money from the crypto are already people who have money, right?
No, exactly. And they're the
if
first
anyone
ones
actually
that
makes money.
they're the first ones that cash out as soon as they've got some information.
Yeah.
So, I get it. I understand. If I were in that position, I'd do that shit too. But I'm not gonna gamble more than what I'm willing to lose on that shit. I gotta say though, I did made about $1,000 off of AMC stock like 2 years ago.
Nice.
So,
dude.
but that's pretty much my only major like get rich quick gain that I got during when all those stocks rallied.
Yeah, $1,000.
Yeah,
you retired.
Yeah, exactly.
But Monica is saying, I like those tweets 100%. Like, why discourage people from doing something good for themselves? Right. Exactly. Why
Yeah.
do that? Right. It's to have this it's this sick desire to feel superior to someone, and
That's
the
exactly what it
only way
is.
that you can feel good about yourself, and this is not new to the internet, but I think it's really been exacerbated by social media, is you put someone else down to make yourself feel better, right?
Exactly.
Um, and because now you can do that not just to like your friends around you,
Yeah, you can do
but
it to
like you can
anyone
do it
now.
to anyone in the world
The
now.
pool of
Like,
people you can make fun of and
yeah,
make yourself feel superior to is much bigger
right.
now.
And you can get validation from other people who have that sick urge and, give you thumbs up. So it's very sick. A lot of people experience anxiety about going to the gym in the first place. So this quoted tweet is really, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Um,
all of those things apply to my life. Shit. I mean, like, I think I'm in a
me
position
too,
where,
Alex.
yeah, and I'm an anti-photo taker too. But I just feel like, if I really wanted to, if I was feeling really mean or really insecure, I could like pull any of the people whose bodies are less ideal than mine, working out at the gym or whatever, and be like, yo, look at this fucking guy. He didn't make any fucking progress. And it's just like, well, shit, I don't even go to the gym and I just happen to be like naturally skinny and thin.
Mhm.
So it's very easy to make fun of that while also putting in much less effort than the person that looks less ideal than me. And to
Yeah,
just go for these easy targets to try and make yourself feel better, that just reeks of someone that is just a loser and insecure, and they're never
agreed.
going to be at the top. So what they want to do is make sure they are not at the absolute bottom by doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's always someone better than you.
There's always someone better.
Almost, I mean, other than the one person in the world who's the best, right? There's always someone better than you, who knows more than you, and
That's how
who
you got
can
to live
put
life.
right and put you in your place. And so even if you do it just out of fear, don't do it, right? Like, even if you like, because that's why I feel like there's some people who might be like, oh, Joey Swole is, and other fitness people, they're sicking their followers, or they're bad for just making these videos, not because they're wrong in the videos, like not because what they say in the videos is wrong, but just the fact that they're so huge as like a brand. Like Joey
Yeah,
Swole has like millions and millions
millions.
and millions of followers on Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. I think mainly on Instagram, but
Yeah,
I think he's growing a bit on TikTok as he makes these reaction videos. But so like they try to there's no engagement with like the content of it. They're just sort of like, we want to just concentrate on the fact that he's such a big account making these videos, sort of lightly criticizing or even a medium criticism of a much smaller account, and saying like, oh, none of the context matters. Him doing that means that he's wrong and bad, and therefore we need to hate Joey Swole, right?
oh
I'm like,
my
no,
god.
I don't care about that. Like
Yeah,
that
how about don't be a
what does
fucking
that matter?
asshole?
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like that doesn't excuse that. Like you don't need to like defend this person who is acting badly. Plus, they're trying to like put this content out there making fun of people or accusing people of being creeps and canceling them, right? Um, to grow their own audience, right? They're
Yeah,
not
no,
doing it for
exactly.
no reason, right? So I'm like,
I mean, if
they've
someone's got the
entered the public.
audience, they
What?
are much more easily able to say, "Hey, fucking cut that shit out."
Yeah,
Like it's not good and it's embarrassing. Don't do that.
yeah. It's like, don't enter the public arena of social media, right? Where it's this is not your private video diary where it's only like on your computer, right? You literally put it on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or Twitter on purpose, knowing that it's going to be public. Like, so then you can't like just shrink back and be like, oh no, no one, he can't respond to that. He's too big. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, be an asshole. You get caught up in some controversy. That's what happens.
If you want the next Amazon or Intel, you got to go to China. Yeah, probably.
I mean, at
Um,
this point,
but that's closed off, right, to most common Americans, right? They're not going to be able to invest in the Chinese market like they could, like an Amazon or Intel. Um, they won't be able to move to China to do that. I mean, most Asian Americans, hell, can't do that. So yeah, so they can get Dogecoin, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I don't understand. It's not like these photo takers have Alzheimer's or memory problems. I don't understand the need for photos. I as someone who doesn't take photos on vacation, or like I don't take photos a lot, I can understand why some people take vacation photos, right? Like there are parts of things that you might not remember, or you just want to document it, right? That's not my problem, right? But there are just some people who all they do is they're just recording, or
All
they're
the
just taking
time.
photos all the time, right?
In their everyday life, in places that are within a 5-mile radius of
Right.
their house.
Or even on vacation, right? They're just the whole time, it seems like they're just looking at their vacation, right? They could be in
Yeah.
like, they could be in Paris, and all they're doing is seeing it through the viewfinder of their camera, right?
Yeah.
I don't mind if like you take some photos here and there, right? But that's what I'm saying. Which I just don't understand, right? Like I don't need to take a photo at every little monument like every little step I take, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to prove. I'm not going to take that many photos. So, no, I'm in a similar position.
Yeah.
And I think, I eventually, I'd like to have kids, and I think it will be a challenge for me to fight my general habit of not taking photos in my own life, when that time comes. So, those are the things that you actually do want to capture, but it's going to take some intention, and it's going to take some awareness for me to be able to do that, because I'm just so used to, in my own personal and individual life, not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. What else?
So, do you think, would it be okay with you if I talked a bit about what I feel like is an enemy of the show?
Sure.
So, shout out to Alex. He was the one that didn't necessarily give me this idea, but he
Okay.
inspired me this week. He was like,
Okay.
"Hey, why don't you guys talk about like stuff that you thought was stupid? The stupidest post you saw."
Oh yeah, okay. You sharing it?
Yeah, so let me go ahead and get this right here. All right, and I'm in my notifications. Let's go to my bookmarks. And do you know the
this
Korean vegan?
woman, man.
Do you know the Korean vegan?
No. I've heard her name. I've seen some of the videos that people have responded to, and I already have sort of like a hatred for vegans, but
Nice.
yeah, the whole Korean vegan, like anyway, okay. What is this one? I remember seeing this one.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and play this one. And shout out to Boba Cyclist here. I think she captures the energy of this well, in which the Korean vegan expresses gratitude for the U.S. military during the Korean War, without which Koreans would have all died and starved. And she's quoting that the person who was quoting her wouldn't have the freedom to criticize his government because they'd execute him. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Oh God, okay.
Further representation of Asian Americans in the United States certainly does nothing to address the plight of authoritarianism. Get that you want to.
Okay, first of all,
What?
I'm going to say, when people talk about authoritarianism, that is just like a pure fucking CIA psyop distraction from all the bad shit that we are doing as a country and projecting it on our expectations of other countries. But anyway.
Yeah. Hey, Ali.
To show off your
Thanks for
poli-sci
joining
degree
us.
and the fact that you read that one book on the Korean War, but have you actually talked to your parents or your grandparents about what they went through during that time? You actually talked to them about what it was like believing that it was better to drown their baby daughter in the Yellow Sea than to watch her starve to death? It was
Okay. I gotta stop right there. What the fuck are you talking about? I fucking hate when people are so brainwashed by just what they're told about, being an immigrant in the United States, that they would think that because times were economically desperate, that pretty much everyone who is having money trouble is going to drown their baby if they're in Korea because they don't want to see their kids struggle. This is this is just like Oprah book club made up shit
Right.
to make people feel like, oh, thank God I'm here in the United States of America where we don't drown our babies. Ugh.
This is the type of shit you hear from the white adopters in America who want to justify their worthiness or their goodness for why they adopted, right?
Yeah.
This is the type of shit you hear. If in the Chinese
Otherwise,
context,
their kids would have been starved or drowned in their places of origin. So, thank God they got adopted to save them from that.
yeah, who knows? I mean, by Chinilpa, you probably mean some like one of the collaborators, right? Like their family were collaborators. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, that's what the U.S. did, but like in the context of adoption, right? Like it's always they'll bring for the Chinese adoptees, they bring up like the one child policy, but like, would you rather have been killed because of the one child policy? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have to fucking listen to
Yeah.
you, stupid.
So like, can you just the Korean vegan talks about how there was starvation, right, during the Korean War, and afterwards, right? So this is something that I don't think most Americans know is that after the Korean War, South Korea was poorer than North Korea by a lot.
Yeah.
Until like the mid 80s.
Yeah.
And
right around the time where the military dictatorship stopped. So around 1988 or so.
And it also coincided with the fact, North Korea's decline coincided with the fact that the decline of the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union was collapsed right in the early 90s, like 91, 92.
Yeah.
Right? So as they were collapsing, North Korea was the main source of support for them because North Korea was embargoed and sanctioned by the United States and Europe and every other country other than the Soviet Union, right? Because the Soviet Union was the only power at the time against, United States power, right? And
pretty
NATO
much.
and the Western and European powers. So if the Soviet Union collapsed, that's when the North Korea started. So then, but she doesn't. So she brings up that like Korea was poor and some families made a hard decision to maybe kill their children. That probably did happen. And a lot of people, adoptees from that time, right, in the early days of Korean adoption to America and to a much smaller part, Europe, were born in like the 50s and 60s and 70s. And she doesn't mention that like Korea was poor because of the war,
yes,
and because of the United States and because of Japan, and it wasn't like because of North Korea.
Yeah, who started that war? Even
if North Korea started the War of Unification, which was a fucking civil war, by the way, and the Soviet Union and the United States split the peninsula after Japan was defeated in World War II, because Japan had been controlling Korea from 1910-ish, right?
Yeah.
Until the end of World War II, which was 1945.
Yeah, 5, something like that.
That was not like sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
Fucker. Like, you don't think people were starving during that time?
No, not at
making
all.
like hard choices like that. I'm not even blaming America for that. That was the fucking Japanese. All right.
Yeah.
So, but America didn't come in during that whole 1910 to 1945 period. Then they certainly didn't fight the Japanese to liberate America, and they didn't really help America. And it wasn't like they were doing anything to make Korea like successful and help those fucking starving families for the 30 years after the war that they were controlled by dictatorships and people were fucking dying. So where are you starting this timeline of all of South Korea and everyone who was ever born there now or still alive now have to be forever grateful for the United States for saving us. Like,
Thank you.
it's ridiculous. Like, the historical ignorance of people like this is insane.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's
Um,
exactly what I'd call it. A historical ignorance that I think is often in the minds of liberals who have this inability to take local cultural context and history into their consideration of why things are the way they are today. And you know what? That's some clown shit. It's liberal
So
clown
it's
shit.
just, I'm like, what? And my problem also is you're completely discounting all the hard work and the efforts of the Koreans in Korea, right? To build the country.
Yeah.
Right. It was like only because the United States chose to invest in it, only because other people came in and saved us,
Thank you,
are we where we are
neoliberalism.
now. And this isn't to say that like this isn't to say that like that didn't help. Of course that helps, right? But
It
like
absolutely did. But
But
you
it
have to
didn't-
wonder about the intentions of why that support and that buildup was there in the first place, right?
that's just insane. I don't know.
And actually, we're only like 19 seconds into this. We
Yeah,
got like
anyway,
another
sorry.
minute.
Continue because I just hate this, but go ahead.
Oh, I might need to refresh. Hold up.
The internet doesn't want me to get too angry about that.
Further representation of Asian food during that time. Dinner. If you talk to them
No,
about
no,
what it's
go
like
back.
being homeless,
Oh, yeah,
and have
okay.
to dig for your food, to know that you'll probably never be able to set foot inside the village of your birth because you'll be arrested on site for the sins of your father. Seriously, it infuriates me when members of our own community are so willing to discard the lived experiences of
Lived
not just other Korean
experience.
Americans like Eric Kim, but their own freaking parents and grandparents. Yes,
About
it's true
what?
that Western imperialism certainly played a role in the U.S.'s presence.
Okay, I gotta fucking stop right there because she does acknowledge Western imperialism in all of
Can you
this.
expand that? Because I want to read the
Oh
tweet.
yeah. Oh yeah. So basically, to give some
Glossy
context,
MIT features from Token Twinks won't launder this Korea USA relationship. Okay.
and what it's in response to is this is a quote tweet of the New York Times sharing a recipe for budae-jjigae and saying budae-jjigae is symbolic of the resourcefulness of
Right.
Korean people during a
Right.
time of great poverty, basically. And then a lot of people were quoting it being like, well, who the fuck caused that poverty and why was that poverty there in the first place, huh? You know,
Right.
maybe this is a
yeah.
painful thing that we shouldn't be sharing as some sort of like fun novelty, which as an aside, what's very funny to me is that do you know what Noah Smith's favorite Korean food is?
Yeah, I know.
It is. It's
I know.
budae-jjigae. And
I
it's-
love budae-jjigae. I think it's yummy. It is probably my favorite thing. Other than the barbecue, it's like top of my list of things I like. But just because I like it doesn't mean I don't think that there is valid criticism
yeah.
or around it, right? And I think that it's sort of divided in Korea. Like I think the younger generation, they're just like, oh, maybe they don't eat it a lot because it is kind of unhealthy, right? It's like
Yeah.
Spam.
Yeah,
It's like hot
processed
dogs,
salty meats and
it's like
instant
ramen
ramen.
noodles.
Yeah.
It's
And processed cheese food product.
yeah, which that you don't need to have that in there. But the Koreans love to add American cheese to shit. And I know that like my friend like Chris Oxford, he hates it, and I didn't like it as much either. But like it does add a creaminess. I don't know.
Like
But
I
they
just
do
don't
add
like
it to too many
I don't like
things.
the way that like the cheese pulls like when you're
Yeah,
taking
no,
pizza out of the box.
It's
I don't
not really
fuck with
cheese,
that.
right?
Yeah,
American
yeah.
cheese is not cheese. It's like cheese food. It's like
Yeah.
it's like cheese sauce. So I can understand the criticism around it, and it's funny. Like she brings up, like, do they even listen to their own parents? Like,
The lived
is she
experience of their
implying
own
that, like,
parents where they could not even go home because of the sins of their fathers.
yeah, but like, is she implying that like all older Koreans like budae-jjigae or agree with the framing of that it's like a symbol of like Korean resilience? Like, I have in-laws, right, that are older Korean people, right, and who grew up hard. Some of them grew up hard, some didn't, but some grew up pretty poor,
Yeah.
and some of them they won't even eat it. They won't even look at
Yeah.
it. They don't want to eat it. They don't look at it as like this is a symbol of my resilience and my childhood. They're like, they're like they're not gonna like scold the young people for eating it,
Yeah.
but like they themselves are not gonna eat it.
I mean, it's the
So is she
same shit
implying
for
that, like,
me in
all
like
old Koreans are gonna
tuna
eat this?
casserole. So, you know, I'm not going to eat that in my adulthood because I ate that as a kid because we couldn't afford anything nicer.
Right, exactly. And it's not, and the narrative is like, oh yeah, okay. The ingredients of budae were because the U.S. military had excess of these things, right? And that sort of like paints in some people's minds, if you're naive, that like, oh, the nice the nice American military had surplus,
Yeah, they
and they
shared their
like
extras.
benevolently shared it with like the starving Korean peasants. And no, that is not like, in what fucking delusional Disney fairy tale land do you think that that's how things work? It was thrown away. People were going digging through garbage, like
Yeah.
the Korean vegans talking about, right? That's where this comes from, right? And it's been sort of it's been gentrified. I don't know, gentrified, but it's been sort of gussied up. And it's like, as I said, I think it is good because it's like junk food, right?
Yeah, it's straight junk. It's delicious. It's delicious junk.
But like it's not like a symbol. It's not like a Korean national food or like a symbol of anything.
It's something that people eat while they're drinking alcohol.
Yeah. It's like a sense of, I don't know, almost, but I think there is like a sense of saving face. And if people want to remember it that way, in some sense, fine. Because it is a sense, because you can look at it as in like, you know what, we did what we needed to do to survive. And and there's no shame in that. But to like make this video, we'll finish the video.
Yeah. We've got 30 more seconds. I'm going to try and keep quiet without getting triggered.
On Korean soil during the 40s and 50s. And yes, it's true that Western imperialism is probably why we have spam and sausage and what some might call garbage stew. But it's also true that but for the US presence on Korea, my grandparents would have committed infanticide, my mother would have died before she was 2 years old, and I would never have been born.
Oh, man.
Sorry, can you go back?
Yeah, where should I go back?
Just for like 5 seconds. Yeah.
For the US presence on Korea, my grandparents would have committed infanticide, my mother would have died before she was 2 years old, and I would never have been born. Regardless of the role that white supremacy played.
How does she know that for sure?
The truth is that
because she believes the narratives that white people tell her about Korea instead of investigating with her own due diligence. But anyway,
if every family would have just killed every girl or child that they had, there would be no one in fucking Korea now.
No, exactly. We wouldn't have this birth rate crisis right now because there would be no one to have birds to have a crisis over. Okay, we've got 12 seconds.
That our parents and our grandparents survived so that me, Eric Kim, and shitheads like this one could thrive. So that I could have the privilege to discard spam and all other meat from my diet altogether. So that Eric could have the privilege of sharing budae and kimchi.
Okay. And basically, I follow and I know the guy who quote tweeted this.
Me too.
And basically all he's saying is like, hey, Eric Kim, don't launder the reason why budae became a thing in the first place. And then she goes off on this fucking rant.
It's honest. It's actually, I've said this before, and I think as I've thought about this, I've said it to other people, like just in real life.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about like Korean food, but as I've gotten older and like I've eaten more and or just like gotten to know more of like the cuisine and stuff, I think it's actually fairly easy these days. And maybe it's always been this way because there are regional differences in food. Even in Korea, even in a country like the size of Korea, it's fairly easy to live a pretty vegetarian lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you can live, even with like the Western influence. I think obviously Koreans are eating more meat, and I think people can get this false impression just because of the first Korean food that became popular in America was the barbecue.
Yeah.
But a lot of traditional Korean sort of food is not red meat based, at least, right? It's fish or seafood. And then even beyond that, you can cut that stuff out, right? You don't have to have that. Kimchi, you probably wouldn't be able to avoid it because it does have some seafood in it. And if you try to make kimchi without like any meat, any like animals, it doesn't taste
I
great.
think Korean vegan has a recipe.
I'm sure it's awful.
I'll put it this way. She gave a recipe for one of the panchan that's like just chopped up braised potatoes sort of thing. But she had people using extra virgin olive oil as an ingredient, and
What,
I
in the
think
fuck-
that
in
kind of just
kimchi?
says it all. So
What?
yeah, not like vegetable oil, not like sesame oil, but extra virgin olive oil.
Is there olive? What is Mangchi's? Mangchi, Mangchi kimchi recipe. What are the ingredients?
Yeah, I guess imagine
There's
it being somewhat of a
cabbage,
challenge.
cabbage, salt, cabbage and salt. Oh, that's for salting it. Okay. Scallions, chives, onions, minari, carrot. That's like radish maybe. Garlic, ginger, onion, fish sauce, shrimp, red pepper flakes. No fucking oil of any sort.
Oops.
What the fuck are you talking about? Like, why do you need oil? Is that to like replace like the fish sauce? And what?
I don't know, dude. Because, I see it this way. Think about the tone and think about the content of what she said regarding infanticide and shit. And it's clear that her audience is not meant to be Asian American vegans. You know what I mean?
And yeah, and it's like, yeah, thanks for the ODB reference, right? We appreciate that.
Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw.
And yeah, I mean, if you're interested on being on the pod or on the stream, you could email us. We have an email address. I think it should be in the about page on YouTube, or if you go to our Twitter page, it's Real AW Pod.
Yeah, I don't remember the email address, so you'll have to go other places to find it.
So yeah, so we can talk and have discussions, but no problem.
Hit us up.
Allie, you asked, he's a tiny account too. Why did she single him out? Because she's a coward.
Yeah.
And whatever. If she wants to be angry and like say I'm being misogynist or all that stuff, whatever. I don't care. Like,
enemy of the show.
Yeah, like we can have a discussion, right? But like,
Korean vegan, come on the podcast.
People with bigger audiences go after smaller audiences to do it like this. And I'm not talking about like a Joey Swole who reacts and is basically saying, look, do better, and criticizes in like a respectful way. But like someone who comes and basically is mocking someone, and when they do it when they're a little bit larger or a lot larger, they're doing it because they don't want to, they don't want to go after someone who's bigger.
Yeah, because they know they'll lose. See, actually, that's kind of funny because I totally followed that mantra yesterday, because one of my friends shared with me some fucking member, owner, staff member of the fucking the gaming / streaming group FaZe Clan. And
who cares about that shit?
I don't fucking care about that shit either. But basically, like, someone with 3 million followers from that FaZe Clan shit was like, hey, me and my mom are going to adopt a baby, and my mom's going to raise the baby like a younger sibling, and I'm going to financially support the sibling. And then I'm kind of just like, I wanted to say something, but I was like, this bee has 3 million followers. If I quote tweet this, I'm going to get fucked, even if my point is salient and good. I'm not fucking with that shit. I've got like 1,800 followers. That's not shit.
Yeah.
A drop in the
Um,
bucket. So, I get that. I get that. But, she's on the opposite side of that spectrum. She could easily be picking on people with millions of followers, but she's not, because she doesn't have anything productive to say in this realm, because her audience is mostly just white and boring.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our email address. Our Twitter is, that's our Twitter. So yeah. It's and I honestly don't even have a problem with her going after or responding to people can do whatever they want. Like,
Sure.
we don't need to get too, I don't think we need to get too hung up on that part of it. But she knew what she was doing too. So like, intention matters, but at the same time, it's fine. It's fair game, right? Like, we all put stuff on the internet, and if a huge account wants to come after us and criticize us, then whatever, we'll fight back. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But like, just, I don't know, man. Like, I just like that. I didn't want try not to think about that video. She's just
Well, I
annoying,
brought
dude.
it here and we played it very slowly for analysis.
I don't know. And then I think we missed one up here. Jason was like, what do you think of Everything Everywhere All at Once? We've heard from Chris and Eliza, but not from the rest of you all.
Yeah, I'm interested in your thoughts. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it yet at all. So, and I
Okay.
actually had little motivation or interest in seeing it, but I know I'll
Yeah.
see it eventually. I'm trying not to be influenced too much about people who are like, they hated it or they loved it or whatever. I think I find it ironic that one of the two directors and writers is this white dude who's like the most stereotypical weeb looking, like, nerdy ass
He is
guy.
fucking white as fuck.
Like, just the most hipstery a white guy. And it's like supposed to be the most fundamentally like Asian movie like ever made. I'm like, kind of weird. That to me is a little bit, but at the same time, like, maybe it is good. I don't know. Like, I like Michelle Yeoh, fiction, sort of fantasy, time travel, multi-dimensional stuff, but it's sort of played out at this point. It's funny, like, my mom went to see it. She just walked out.
Wow. Really?
My mom is like she's the most like white suburban upper middle class, just
Sure.
lady, right? Like, Democrat. And she is not into science fiction. So like,
Oh,
I
okay.
grew up really into science fiction. Like, my brother and my dad got us into it. Like, my dad was an OG, like, Star Trek original series.
Tribbles type shit.
Like, yeah, like classic science fiction. Like, because my dad was born like, in 1941, and he grew up like in the age of like, he was reading stuff that had been published in like the turn of the like the early 1900s, 1920s.
Yeah.
And then he grew up his whole life like reading like classics, right? Classics of the genre, like Asimov and Heinlein and like Bradbury and all that stuff. Like, that stuff was like contemporary. Like,
Yeah.
I think Fahrenheit.
Yeah, 451.
Fahrenheit 451 by Bradbury was published in 53, right? So like, my dad was like, 10, 12 years
That would have been
old.
like prime age to read that.
Yeah, and like I, Robot, right, which was Asimov's book, right? That was 1950, right? So like, my dad he grew up during like the golden age.
Yeah.
Or maybe I mean, I guess maybe you'd call it the Silver Age, because maybe the Golden Age, but whatever. One of like the most like influential eras of
Yeah.
science fiction. And so like he got us into it. My mom just was not. So she sort of suffered along, but she went to it. She went to Everything Everywhere All at Once because I think she saw it was like really, you know, everyone was like so into it, and she likes Michelle Yeoh, or like she likes the idea of her. And I don't think my mom like has seen many Michelle Yeoh movies. She's not into like kung fu movies, right? Or
Yeah.
any of that stuff.
She didn't
Not
see
watching the
Super
Hong
Cop
Kong
or
movies.
Yes, Madam. So
Right, she's not watching any of those like Hong Kong movies. Not that I know. Maybe she did. And I also think like she's like, oh, you know, my sons are Asian. Maybe I'll go see this thing. And
yeah.
she didn't last 30 minutes. She walked out.
And
She's not walked out of many movies. She
Yeah.
walked out. So I love those science fiction sci-fi classics. I think I'm dystopian pilled. You know, the thing about those classic science fiction movies is books and short stories is they're really studies of the human condition. They're not, for the most part, focused too much on the science. Like there is some focus on it, but only in the sense that they're trying to. It's the backdrop of exploring what it means to be human,
Yeah.
right? And how humanity and society as a whole, not just like one country, but like humanity, all of like human civilization would act in like extreme situations, right? Not just like a zombie apocalypse or some dystopia, but like some scenario where like some technology is so disruptive that like how would human society change? Would it even change fundamentally? And exploring that, right? So like iRobot is not really about the technology of how robots are real. It's just sort of like, okay, robots are real now. How will humans interact with them? How would society change because of them? What can we do to like make sure they don't just fucking kill us all? Things like that, right? Fahrenheit 451 is really, you know, it's about fascism, right? Because it came out in 53, right? So it was like, you know, World War II had just happened, and the Nazis, and then, you know, Ray Bradbury. And this is also really hyper critical of like the United States society, right? Because fascism wasn't just something that was like invented in Nazi Germany, right? It was there was a lot of that in America.
Yeah.
So these are studies of like the human condition, society, people. So I think that's what like people get wrong about science fiction. That only nerds like this because they want like pew pew laser guns and shit. And it's, you know, it's
Very
much deeper than
small-brained
that.
opinion.
Much deeper than that. So and a lot of fantasy too, right? Fantasy books are a lot like that as well. Like Lord of the Rings isn't really about like how superhuman like the elves and dwarves are, right? Or all the magic. It's really about, you know, how are these how are the individuals reacting, right, to like pure evil? Is there pure evil? It's much broader than that. Certainly, of course, there are things like that are just like sandals, like swords and sandals and things like that. But the classics are a lot deeper. So, I mean, I'm just a big science fiction. I don't know where the tangent was going, but I don't think that everything, everywhere, all at once is gonna meet that bar, right? It's not 2001.
So I'll say this about it. You know, I've had all kinds of thoughts over time. I guess the shortest way I can sum it up is that I kind of liked it when I first saw it in theaters, but I kind of had a problem with it that I couldn't quite articulate. But, you know, as I've thought about it and I've seen the reception of the movie more, I would say that it is a very well-crafted movie, no doubt. I mean, in terms of the pace of the narrative, in terms of the cinematography, in terms of making the actual sort of like watching experience exciting, it's a great movie. I cannot knock it in any way in that regard.
Right.
Anything that I don't like about it is purely from a sensibilities standpoint.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of it came from the fucking White Daniel, the one who, when looking through the Criterion DVD closet, picks up a DVD of Malcolm X the movie and says, hey, this is one of the better crime movies that I've seen. And I'm just like, you fucking dumb piece of shit. You fucking dumb idiot. Fuck you.
There's
so
some crime in the movie, but that doesn't mean it's a crime movie. Like,
I mean, you know, I heard more context that like has like the feeling or the suspense or excitement of a crime
part
movie.
of it.
Well, whatever. Doesn't matter. Point is like, you know, I see the sensibilities of like the relationship between the daughter and the parents to be very, very just like overwrought and overdone, just like your typical sort of like second or third generation immigrant kid who has no real cultural interest, who is doing things that the parents don't like. In this case, the daughter is queer, you know? And you've got like, you've got the dad. I don't know exactly how to say his name. Ke Huy Quan. The most fucking
short round,
just,
right?
You know, like he's a nice guy. I understand why he's lovable. And I try and form my own opinion outside of the racialized perceptions of white people talking about how much they fucking love that guy. And I know they don't love him because they think he's like a good guy and a nice guy. They only love him that much because he was fucking Short Round and Data from the Goonies. So he is very much a caricature that is getting a lot of praise for things that sound like they're good and sound like they recognize what he's doing, but it's purely racialized shit that disgusts me.
I mean, I don't think he's lying. I think he's being genuine when he's like,
I think he's being genuine
and all that stuff.
I just think society is meaner than what he thinks it is.
Right. And I don't want to begrudge him his genuine gratitude for people giving him a chance when he thought, like, because it seems like he truly struggled.
He didn't have health insurance, so.
But I still get this. I still get a little queasy feeling in my stomach of like, you don't have to be that obsequious. Like, you don't have to be that pathetic.
He's just like Asian pussy guy. I mean, if I gave it the rawest, quickest sort of way of describing it, he's Asian pussy guy. And fucking American audiences love to see that because the last thing they want to see is like an Asian guy who makes other people's masculinity feel threatened. So he fits that role perfectly.
Or for him to exactly. Like he's completely non-threatening. I mean, he's the opposite of threatening.
And I guess like my sense of humor is more sort of like a Verhoeven sort of sense of humor where I make fun of the absurd, I make fun of assholes, I make fun of terrible people. I don't like things that are like silly and quirky. I think that is a very white person sensibility, and I think it is a very try-hard thing. So Everything Everywhere All at Once, they had the fucking sausage fingers. I was like, you fucking white try-hard losers. I fucking hate this shit so fucking much.
It's corny. Right.
Yeah. I understand that there's the ability to do corny and have it be like self-aware and charming. And there's a certain level of self-awareness here that I think is like, oh yeah, we know it's corny. We know it's cheesy, but there is still this element of, oh, we're being adorkable. You should think this is funny and this is cute. And I'm like, no, I fucking hate this shit. That's why I avoid Reddit, for fuck's sake. That's why I'm only talking to people on Asian Twitter talking my shit. Because I don't want to fucking listen to that annoying, adorkable, like Joss Whedon sort of dialogue shit.
Yeah.
Like, did that just really happen? Type shit. No, I fucking hate that. I hate it.
I mean, I'll watch it eventually. And
but we'll
probably talk about it when I.
It is worth watching, and I would love to know your thoughts on it.
All right, I'll watch it.
I also wouldn't be surprised if your thoughts on it are similar to mine.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to go with an open mind and
try.
Yeah, and if I like it, I'll say I like it. But I suspect that I'll get annoyed by it, in a similar fashion that you're going to be annoyed by it. I I think I'll probably be very amused just because I like Michelle Yeoh, so like she's probably going to be great in it.
She's good in it. She's good.
Um,
She plays a type of character that she hasn't really played before.
Yeah. Which is good. That's cool. And I mean, I don't mind having like sort of like some silliness and like them playing with the idea of the multiverse and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, I'll watch it and we'll talk about it, I'm sure. But yeah, so like let's see what else. One thing I've learned from watching Game of Thrones and The Last of Us is to never watch the director's interview. They always retroactively ruin my appreciation of film with dumb shit. You know, it's so funny. Like, you're probably right now. Like, I think you're correct in the current day.
Yeah.
But like listening to James Cameron talk about his movies,
or like Martin Scorsese.
Well, yeah, like Coppola, talk like listening to certain filmmakers, like I'm sure like talking to like Verhoeven or like
John Carpenter.
or I would even say like probably talking to like Lucas, right?
Yeah, even
would be-
Lucas. No, I
Because
agree.
Lucas gets a lot of flack for being like, oh, you know, the prequel sucked or whatever. I'm like,
I mean, I thought they sucked, but you know,
But a
I
lot
think he's a more serious movie maker with a more serious appreciation for the art
Right.
form.
and he
and the
didn't just make Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Right? He made other movies like I think he made American Graffiti, right?
Now you're getting into territory that's white people territory for me.
Yeah,
So-
but we were raised by white people, man. Come on. American Graffiti. Yeah, George Lucas, right? So American
Wow,
Graffiti
okay, I
is
didn't know that.
like Richard Dreyfuss, Ron
Wow.
Howard. American Graffiti is a great movie. It's a great coming of age movie.
Well, shoot, now I
like-
need to
like
see
the
it because I've been tainted by coming of age movies like 16 Candles and The Breakfast Club. So
Look, no, this is they're not like teenagers. I think they're like maybe college.
yeah,
Um,
that resonates with me more anyway.
yeah. So like this cast is crazy, right? So it's Ron Howard, right? Who's more famous for being a director these days, but he's an actor. Richard Dreyfuss, Charles Martin Smith, Cindy Williams, Harrison Ford was in it.
All-star studded cast.
Like a lot of famous people, but like the most famous, like Richard Dreyfuss. This is like one of his breakouts. But yeah, it's just a great movie, right? But like a lot of the worst parts of the prequels were not even the fault of Lucas. So, you know, but I agree, like modern day showrunners are not really directors. The
A lot of
directors
them are
they
like
don't-
nepo babies that just kind of make things based on the things that they watched with like no appreciation for continuity or like history or culture or anything like that.
Yeah. Like you don't to be a showrunner, right? And I'm sure Millie, if you watch this or watch in the in the future, or like Mtume, but people who actually know how to make movies and things like that. My idea of what showrunner would do, right, is it's sort of they're doing a lot of project management, right? That are trying to make sure that the show gets made on schedule and all that.
Yep.
They're doing a lot of management work, but they're not writing the script, right? They're not script writers. They're not like head script writer. They might like guide where the show goes, but they're not writing the scripts. And they're not directing each episode, right? They're not literally like on the ground on the set directing, right? They might like have direction broadly of like this is where we want this episode's about this, or like this is the direction we're going from broad strokes. But they're not responsible for like the everyday stuff that actually needs to get done to get the show made.
Yeah.
Right. And like then why do I care why are you talking about how each episode was made?
Yeah.
Like I want to talk to the director and the writer of that episode. I don't care what but in this celebritization of every role and everyone who's involved with making these shows is sort of weird to me. Like now like the middle manager of the show is like someone I need to admire and think is a creative genius.
They really make it opaque in regards to how things are made and produced. And they, once you have an understanding of how the sausage is made, maybe not in this industry, but in other industries, you realize that one single person usually isn't going to have very much insight into the entire product holistically. And if they are going to have that insight, they're going to be someone directly involved with like the script writing or the story,
Yeah.
things like
But
that.
But I just don't know like the difference between the modern day like celebrity showrunner versus like the studio executive who was like making sure, or like the role of like the person who was always probably like someone in that role that like made sure that like the people got to the set, like they scheduled like time on the set, made sure all that. Like what's different, but like are we really supposed to believe that like D&B, the guys that like were the showrunners of Game of Thrones, had that much creative control? Or like they were like the ones responsible for the fact that it was so good for like the first 4 seasons or 5 seasons?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Like it was the people who were writing the scripts. They were not writing the goddamn scripts. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're like they actually wrote all the scripts. But like I would be very surprised if they did that. And they weren't directing everyone. They don't get director's credits for every episode, right? So like what were they? And then obviously we know that they suck because they couldn't, the last like 3 or 4 seasons of that show were awful, right? Because they don't have no actual creative idea
material
about what to do with it.
Yeah.
So like I'm very skeptical of like, oh, these showrunners, they're all geniuses. Like, what are you talking about? I just don't think that's the case. And like everyone involved has to be a celebrity. Like,
yeah, I don't know about that, man. That's how we get a bunch of fucking shows from the same creators that all feel the fucking same.
Yeah, it's like Shonda. There's a Shondaverse. She's just like she's directed some, she writes some. At this point, I think she's just a producer, right? Like, what is she really doing?
Yeah. I mean, once you hit producer, it's just like you're not even really doing anything. And you're certainly involved, but is it involved with anything that directly contributes to what you see on screen? Not really. There's like at least one or 2 hops.
I think from small independent productions, there are, right?
Yeah.
I think the producers and the filmmakers and the videographers and the sound and all that creative stuff, there's a lot tighter relationship there, right? But when you're talking about like big Hollywood productions and stuff, or like big, network TV and prestige TV,
yeah,
I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where the budgets are so big and the stakes are so high that generally, like, if one person drops, they will find someone else to carry the torch, even if it's not exactly in the same sort of product that would have been made otherwise. It's going to be close enough where it's not really going to affect the quality or the tone of what's being made.
Right. And I just, there's always that like reportage of like, oh, this showrunner left or this person left. I'm like, I guess that means that it's not going to be made, right? Because it's like there's no one there to push it through across the finish line. I don't necessarily take that to mean that like the product is bad or like the TV show will be bad. I'm just like, oh man, if that director left or that producer left or that showrunner left, then that might mean that like someone lost interest.
Yeah. Something happened with the original vision.
Yeah, not that like the actual like episodes that were directed or some stuff were bad, right? It just could be like, oh, they just decided to leave for something else. I think some people think, oh, that means that they left because they saw the product and it was going to be bad. I don't think so necessarily. But I don't know. I don't know. So Chris was saying, my issue was the idea of reconciliation with the parents as necessary for healing one's own trauma is a bad precedent. Yeah, you don't always have to reconcile, right? Sometimes it's impossible. right? What do you think?
I guess I'm not 100% sure about what's being said here. Reconciliation with parents as
I think for the
necessary.
movie, right? For Everything Everywhere
Yeah,
All at Once.
yeah. I guess bad precedent is where I'm getting stuck. Because I guess do you mean from the perspective that it seemed a little bit forced to have a clean conclusion, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think that's part of it, right? Is that like yeah, like you don't fully heal until the parent acknowledges that they did like bad things.
And that, like, in these situations, there's always going to be some sort of resolution that can be reached if you strategically plan your moves right.
Right, right. And that like you never really truly are able to heal unless the person who hurt you like acknowledges that they hurt you. Um
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
yeah,
guess I have an issue with this from the perspective of what are someone's expectations based on how they were conditioned, where they were raised, and where they grew up in comparison to their parents? And, how much of that gap is really reconcilable given the understandings of culture and how life works that each of the individuals involved have? Sometimes I don't think you can reconcile that because,
yeah,
I think in the case, I think a lot of Asian Americans are tempted to say that their non-native English speaking parents are more stubborn than them. But, over time, I really think that it's the children that tend to be more inflexible because of embarrassment about like their parents' cultural or language deficiencies or what they perceive to be that growing up in the United States with their parents as immigrants.
yeah,
And I guess that understanding can only come when both parties are trying to understand each other and have other reference points outside of something as basic as like American pop culture or the culture of white families to really understand where the other person is coming from. And I really think when it comes to the sort of intergenerational conflict or whatever, or intergenerational misunderstanding that we see in Everything Everywhere All at Once, they don't really talk about either the parents or the daughter's experiences enough for me to really understand what the gap is. It's clear the gap is there. There's some sort of weird misunderstanding or inability to have deep, fulfilling conversations with each other is palpable, but we don't really have any insight into why, what experiences caused this, or what lack of knowledge caused this. Don't really know, but to present this without any sort of additional context, I think, is unproductive and just kind of stereotypical in a way that's very boring. It's not novel. It's not interesting. It's not insightful.
yeah.
It's just showing something that we've pretty much always seen when they're Asian people with parents and their kids involved. So, from that perspective, I can absolutely see it.
Yeah, and I agree that it's a bad precedent in that if you limit the definition or the possibility of this of true reconciliation or the idea of reconciling with your parents or anyone else right in your life that you have a relationship with that might need sort of any reconciliation, that if you can't get that other person to acknowledge they're wrong to you and that you can't fully heal, I think that's a bad. I think that limits your possibility to fully heal from something, because there are some situations where that person is never gonna acknowledge it, right?
Yeah.
And if that is like the final step towards fully healing, then you're never gonna heal it, and then you're always gonna have that wound, right?
It
Or you
shouldn't
always it's always gonna affect you, right?
It shouldn't be dependent on someone else if you have a suspicion that someone else will not grow to acknowledge the thing that you want acknowledged.
Right. Because I think you can do a lot with just sort of realizing that maybe they're never gonna be able to do that, and you just choose that, like, maybe you just accept that, and then you do your best to move on from that. And find a way, for yourself, right? Whatever that might be. Uh, I know that people will interpret this move that type of thing is like, oh, you're just sort of letting them off the hook. Maybe, maybe not. But at the same time, if that person is not going to acknowledge that they hurt you, right? But you hold on to it your whole life. Who really gets hurt in that?
No, exactly.
You do. You keep that. You keep yourself in that place of being hurt and to never be able to fully heal. And that doesn't help you. It doesn't serve you, right? It doesn't help you grow. So I think it, a lot of, I think this a lot from things, not just this movie, but like other things where it's like, why does there have to be a resolution at the end? It would be more powerful or more realistic or more different if it just sort of ended. Like it just wasn't.
I think the experience of being adopted and just experiences in that realm are sort of the very definition of that. Like plenty of things can be unknown or unresolved, but at the end of the day, we need to come to our own conclusions to make things coherent and to have some sort of path forward, even if we know we likely don't have the answers that we want or feel like we need in our immediate grasp. And, are you going to let that just make you feel like shit every second of the day, every day for the rest of your life? Or are you going to find some sort of way to incorporate that into the narrative of what your life is to, either inspire you or somehow make it insightful in a way that makes the overall experience productive, even if there are things that you want missing from it?
Yeah. And yeah, dude, I will see it and we'll have you on. All right.
Yeah,
that's a promise.
We'll do it. I would love to talk about that movie in more detail.
So yeah, and I don't want to paint with too broad a brush about the idea of, or before, we were talking about showrunners and sort of that type of thing, to say none of them have any relevance or can, or have any thing to do with the success of shows. I just think that they're given too much credit these days for what I believe for a lot of people, they don't actually have much creative control. And we don't give enough credit to the writers, right? And it's like I think about like have you seen The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary?
Yeah. I was thinking of, for some reason, Save the Last Dance with Julia Stiles, and I was like, yeah, I remember that movie. No, but I saw it.
Oh my God, she has one of the most cringe dances in that movie. That's supposed to be like, oh my God, because she's like trying out for Juilliard or something, right?
Yeah.
And Omar Epps is like, yeah. Anyway.
Those teen movies, man, it was different back then.
Oh my God, Julia Stiles. Oh, anyway. So in The Last Dance, right? So a lot of that documentary is about the general manager of the Bulls during that era.
Yeah.
Right? During like the early part of that era of the Jordan, and how like there was a lot of tension between like Scottie Pippen and this guy. And so I think of like, maybe this is a completely off analogy, right? But whenever I'm thinking of like the showrunners, it's like they're that general manager who helped put together this all-star team of players that is winning all these championships. But then he's sort of getting pissed off that he's not famous enough, right? Everyone is like, loves Michael Jordan, loves Phil Jackson, loves Scottie Pippen and Cartwright and Kerr and all these people, right? Because they're on the floor winning the championships. And he's sort of, resentful of the fact that like, I helped. I got these guys together. I put these deals together. I need more credit. I'm the real reason you're winning, not you guys on the court. I'm the one. And then he ends up sort of blowing, the team falls apart, right? They can't.
That happened fast too.
Right?
Yeah.
And obviously I think there were some instances where like Scottie Pippen and the other players were a little bit too mean to him, but at the same time, he was sort of disrespecting them too.
Yeah.
So like maybe this is a bad analogy, but like to me, I'm like, he's like the showrunner.
I absolutely agree, because at the end of the day, the players are the one doing the delivering of the results.
Right.
Even if like someone else put them together to deliver those results.
And I'm not talking about people like the guy who, well, it came out more about like the what is it, Morty show, like Rick and
Rick and
Morty,
Morty. Yeah.
where like,
Justin Roiland, I think his name is.
yeah, where like a lot of these writers were like, he never came to work. He wasn't like in the writers' room, but like everyone thought he was like in the writers' room leading it. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about like the showrunners who are like head writer as well, right? I'm not talking about the people who are like showrunner and lead writer and all this stuff. There are people who are just showrunners, like they don't write, right? Unless I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. People tell me if I'm wrong that like all the showrunners are also like the lead writers. Maybe that's the
No,
way it is.
I don't think so, dude. I think it's sort of like most managers of like teams of programmers don't do coding anymore once they're managing those teams of
Right.
programmers. It's one of those sorts of things.
And yes, obviously, like in the business world, like I'm a project manager, business analyst. I'm not like on the business front line, but I'm not a coder, right? And we are an important role because we need to, we do make sure the projects get done, right? From scheduling and also we do analysis and stuff. But I would never think that I'm like irreplaceable or like I'm the main reason why this project
the only reason this got delivered was
right?
You. Yeah.
And that's sort of where I'm coming from. It's like we've gotten out of whack with like who we're sort of giving credit to.
I agree. I think we just tend to make the nature of people's work very opaque, especially if they're in an industry or they have a job that a lot of people would like, because on paper it sounds very nice, like writing for a TV show or being a producer for a TV show, something like that. I mean, unless you've done something very similar or adjacent to those highly desired roles, you really have no idea what's involved with that. And the people that actually do that stuff tend to have this habit of inflating their worth and inflating their contributions to whatever project they're a part of. I mean, we see this in our workplaces all the time. There's always some jackass who's like a mid-level manager who outranks a lot of people working on something, but they definitely make their contribution seem much greater than it actually was in practice. So that's the analogy that I come to when I hear stuff like this. And I'm like, yes, you are right. You are correct.
Yeah.
And where you're coming from is coming from a place of humility, where you're like, hey, I contribute important stuff, but at the end of the day, the project does not hinge on my contribution.
Right. So yeah, but we are helping to produce, or we're helping finance. We're not producing, but we're helping the finance of Plan A, this documentary from Dan Chen about anti-Asian violence. We'll give more updates on that. And our friend Millie is helping produce that. So I feel bad sort of ragging on producers and stuff, but she does a lot more work than just your normal producer.
Nice.
So I don't, I feel bad, but I don't know. I just feel like some people get too much credit. Other people get too little credit.
I agree.
And so that's where I'm coming from.
And if we were all more honest about what we do and don't do, we wouldn't have these criticisms in the first place.
Yeah, and he tried to cheap out on the extension. I think Pippen was dumb in signing the long-term extension when he shouldn't have. Not dumb, not completely dumb. I think he was worried because they didn't have a guaranteed contracts, or if he had gotten injured, right, like he would have not gotten as much money, right? So there's no guarantees. So I think that it was smart in that sense to take the extension. But the GM definitely cheaped out on it, right? He definitely could have given them more money, but he didn't want to. And also, like, players weren't making as much money back then as they were making today. I think Scottie Pippen was made like $7 million total on that contract.
Wow, off the whole contract? That's crazy to hear.
Scottie,
especially as one of the most notable players in the league at that time.
And extension worth contract extension. Worth Yeah, Pippen ended up re-signing with the Bulls in a 7-year deal worth only $19.45 million.
Wow, that's not very much for a professional athlete.
So he doesn't try. Okay. In his first few years, so he was, how old was he?
And was he in his 30s by then?
No, couldn't have been. When was he drafted? This was in 90. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he was in his prime. But like at 2.83 million in 91.
Was it like 4 million now? 5 million?
1991 value in 2023. Here's an inflation calculator. Uh, 6.1 million.
Wow.
So that's actually pretty low for his caliber of player.
Yeah.
Really low, actually. In 7 years, that's a long contract.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't think he was completely dumb for taking it, but like why nickel and dime, right? I mean, it seems bad. And that's why he was pissed. He was pissed.
Yeah, I mean, hearing the figures for a lot of big names now, I mean, even with inflation, yeah. I mean, even as someone that doesn't really know shit about sports, that sounds pretty low. So,
Pretty low.
good luck, Scotty.
I literally thought the same thing that he was talking about Save the Last Dance. No, The Last Dance. Come on.
Save the Last Dance was a very iconic movie at the time.
Is it?
At the time, people have forgotten it now, but it came out in like 98, something like that. I've been watching so many commercials lately. Like that's what I have in my background when I'm doing like physical therapy stretches and exercises on my shoulder. So I've seen like I watch like half an hour to 1 hour commercial compilations, and I probably watch at least 3 or 4 of those a day these days. So, and I've been doing that for like 6+ months. So I've seen basically every commercial I ever saw as a kid again on YouTube. Very, very cool thing to do with your time if you're on YouTube too much. So check it out sometime.
All right. No, yeah, you should watch. Yeah, it is. It is an iconic '90s like movie or early 2000s. Right? When did it come out? Do you know?
I'm looking it up right now. 2001.
Okay, yeah. So early like right when
I
I
would have
was
been in
college.
6th grade.
Damn.
Pre 9/11 shit.
2001. Why is this picture of Lin-Manuel Miranda that you tweeted out? What is this?
Oh, that's just like his fucking like lip biting photo that everyone found to be repulsive if they're a normal person.
Oh god, I didn't even notice he was biting his lip. I just thought it was some weirdo.
Yeah.
I hate fucking Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I'm glad. That's another thing we can add to the list of things we share in common. Very good.
I hate it. Pippen probably also hates MJ because MJ's 98 salary was higher than some NBA team salaries. Yeah, I think there's a rivalry between the two anyway. Certainly the pay disparity. I think also like, yeah, there's just a big rivalry just because they're, I mean, they're athletes and they were teammates, but rivals. And then I think people kind of conveniently forget that as good as MJ was, they didn't win anything until Pippen.
Yeah.
So in a sense, you could say that Pippen was more important, right? In some sense, right? Obviously they didn't win anything after MJ left, so it's not like Pippen could win on his own either. So like they needed each other, but it was just MJ. I can understand why Pippen might be pissed. One fun thing we did. Yes, MJ's legacy would be very different without Pippen. I mean, Kobe, like any NBA star, right, that you can think of would be different without one other player, right? Like Kobe wouldn't win nothing without Shaq. Nothing. Shaq wouldn't have won anything without Kobe, right? Who else in basketball, right? So like it's never one person, and there's never ever going to be in the league. Like not even LeBron James. LeBron James couldn't win anything without other players, right? He had to go to Miami and play with Dwayne Wade, who's a Hall of Famer. Like not LeBron. What do you mean not LeBron? He'd be able to win without another superstar? Who did LeBron won with LeBron's NBA championships? So he won 4 NBA championships. 2012 with Miami, right? He had Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade. Okay, so his 2012 championship was Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, right? Dwayne Wade is superstar. He needed Dwayne Wade. In 2013, Ray Allen, Dwayne Wade. Yeah, Miami had the stars. By himself, really? 2016, I guess, right. That was the Cavs, right? When he won that year with the Cavs. Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, maybe this season. I mean, who did he have? Who was on this squad? Why don't they have? Oh, he had Kyrie. He had Kyrie and Kevin Love. Kevin Love, the tall white boy. Kevin Love. LeBron had Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving's a Hall of Famer. All right. Outside of his antics, he's a Hall of Fame player. Kyrie wasn't injured for every game. Kyrie was healthy for game 1. Okay, game 1. He dropped 34 in game 4, but they lost. He played in game 3. Who's defend? Why we got to defend LeBron? LeBron. It wasn't like LeBron and Sean Livingston the whole game. Well, not Livingston's on the Warriors, but it wasn't like LeBron and like I don't know who was on this team. Why aren't they listing who's on the team? Roster. Here we go. It wasn't just LeBron and Channing Frye out there. I mean, Shumpert, J.R. Smith, like he had players. Yeah, LeBron's good, but like he needed other people. All right. He had Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. Okay. And then in 2020 with the Lakers, right? He had AD. He had AD. All right. Yeah, and that who else was on that team? LeBron never did it completely on his own. No one did. No one. Other than maybe like Wilt Chamberlain back in the day. Giannis might be the only one here. Maybe. But that was 2021, right? And Wilt is certainly overrated. Everyone from that era, everyone before like the 80s is completely overrated. I love how like JJ Redick, who is completely like Middleton is a great player. Totally underrated. But I love how JJ Redick got like complete criticized for saying that Bob Cousy wasn't that good. I don't know if you know who Bob Cousy is, Kyle.
I do not.
But
That's the only name I've heard so far that I just am unfamiliar with.
Bill Russell is probably a better player all around. Yeah, because I think he was better defensively. I think offensively, Wilt is a beast. But yeah, Bill Russell is a legend. I think Bill Russell probably had the frame and the size and aptitude for basketball that he could be good. I think Wilt was sort of just, in a way, just like an athletic freak. I don't know how much of a player he was. Oscar, like there's certain players in that old era that could definitely hang now, but like for the most, like JJ Redick got like lambasted for saying Bob Cousy played against like bus drivers and garbage men, and like that Bob Cousy is bad, right? Like Bob Cousy is not a good basketball player in a modern sense at all. Like, and I don't think you could even say that like maybe he had like the athleticism that if he just had the same skills and training, he would have been like good in the modern league. No, he would not. Like there are not that many John Stocktons or like Steve Nashes. All right. Like that's not Bob Cousy. So I just find it hilarious that like people are like getting angry that like how dare JJ Redick, who's another white guy who was like mediocre in the modern NBA era, was like Bob Cousy, who played in like the 50s, in the 40s and 50s, would have just not a good basketball player, right? It's like he had like insulted their own grandfather, Anyway, have you heard of the game Sons of the Forest?
No.
I mentioned it because CS is on, and so we played together with our friend Philip from Plan A.
Yeah.
So we had because it's like one of those like online multiplayer survival game.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. Has anyone else played it or heard it? It's like it was like viral on the internet. It's kind of insane because it's a sequel to the game of The Forest. Did you hear about that one?
The name sounds familiar, but I haven't played either of them.
Not usually the genre I like, but these kinds of games are infinitely more enjoyable if you play with friends. So Chris here, he started the lobby, and then we got on the Discord and the voice chat and just we're building a fort and fishing and drying meat and making bone armor and exploring the island of Sons of the Forest. It's a fun game. It's still in early access, but
I'll check it out.
It's $30. So like, we're always trying to like put together a party. So like, yeah, maybe we'll stream it. We could stream it.
Hey, that sounds like a plan.
But again, I don't usually like these kinds of games because I don't like chopping wood and then building a thing and getting attacked randomly and like dying and then losing all my progress. That doesn't usually appeal to me. but we were rolling 3 deep and nothing could touch us. We know, as long as one of us was alive, like they could just revive the rest of us and we didn't have to like respawn. And the graphics aren't like super duper great, but certain vistas, like there's a big, like you're in a forest, and wherever we spawned was like next to a small pond, that like has a river coming out of it, or it's like not even a pond, it's just like it's like a really small pond, and then you hike a little ways and you get to the beach, and then you turn around and you can see the mountain, like there's a big like snow covered mountain in the far away.
Yeah.
And it's just gorgeous. Like it just looks really nice. The textures up close aren't great, but it just, I don't know, it's fun. It's pretty fun. And like you collect sticks and you have like a knife and a lighter. Like you can make fires and like you can make spears and like a bow and arrow. And it's not that realistic because the recipe to make a bow and arrow is like 2 sticks, some duct tape, and like a piece of rope. And like that would never make a bow and arrow that would fire anything. Like
Close enough.
You don't need like a regular rope that like something that you would use to like climb, right? Like we're talking about climbing, like that rope would not be, is not the type of thing you need to string a bow.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
And you can't just pick up a stick coming off like a regular tree and like use that as like the bow part, right?
Yeah.
The wooden frame of the bow. But they're like, yeah, that works.
Whatever.
And like you can, so it's not completely realistic, but it's just, it's just fun to like be like, all right, cool. And they're like cannibals, and like you got to fight off the cannibals, and you're like, why would anyone who's even stranded on this island decide to resort to cannibalism? Because all the animals are super dumb, or they're like, there's so many deer everywhere and squirrels and like fish. You can just fish, like there are berries and shit all over the place. Like, why are you eating other people? Like, but whatever.
They want to,
And then they're like these monkeys, but I don't think they're actually monkeys. They're just human beings that have like resorted to acting like monkeys, and they climb the trees and act like monkeys and like throw rocks at you, and you gotta like try to, they attack you, so you kill them. I mean, you're a mass murderer. I mean, like we played for like 3 hours. We killed like a small village worth of like NPCs, and then like you build the fire and burn their bodies to get bones.
Nice.
And you can make armor out of their bones. It's so funny, man. But it's like it's a lot of fun because there are these like caves and secrets, and then you can search the caves, and there's like mysterious bunkers. You're like, why is there a bunker just like built in this like island in the middle of nowhere? And like there's a key card, so like I've got to find this key card, like what's behind this door and all that stuff. So yeah, it's in a better state than most AAA games when they released. It was stable, like it didn't crash, like it didn't run great, but it didn't run poorly, like that badly.
I'd be more open to playing a game like this because there's a group of people I know playing.
Exactly. I would not play it by myself.
Solo, but yeah.
Yeah, really wholesome time spent with friends, truly. One where we're just, a gang rolling up on people and killing them. But yeah. Video games, not real people.
Yeah.
YouTube
Parody.
algorithm. Yeah, so yes, join us.
I'll add it to the list. When I've acquired it, I will let you guys know.
It is. It's not free, right? So it's like $30.
I can do that.
They were not out for the finals. Look it up. Look it up. Look up the stats. Look up the I will share it. I will prove it to you. '16 finals. Game 1. How could Kyrie Irving have 26 points if he was out for the finals in Game 1? Impossible. I mean, the Cavs lost, but he was in the game. Kevin Love was there too. He played 37 minutes in Game 1.
Wow.
Game 2. Warriors got destroyed. Warriors destroyed the Cavs. Irving played 33 minutes. And then Game 4, roaring back. Game 3, I mean. Cleveland, sorry. Where's the oh. Cleveland. Kyrie played 36 minutes. Love might have been out because Love only looks like he played Game 1. But JR really stepped up. LeBron, monster, right? Played every minute. Kyrie Irving, like this is like what cemented Kyrie Irving as a star, right? I mean, Golden State went up 3-1, right? Something like that. They went 3 up. They still lost.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, he was out. But I mean, Irving played the whole final, so Irving was more important to this team than Love. He played 25 minutes in Game 6. Who's Lappy? But anyway, I mean, obviously they came back, right? I mean, look at it. I mean, they rattle off 3 wins. Incredible. And they weren't even particularly close. Oh, laptop. Yeah, Curry got injured, right? But it still doesn't mean that like LeBron did it on his own, right? Like he was MVP for sure. But like Kyrie played almost as many minutes as he did. In some games, he outscored. He was more important, outscored. Anyway, LeBron is an all-time great. Individually, like I would pick LeBron over MJ. I know that might be blasphemy to some people, but I would even I don't even think Curry is top 5 of who I'd pick to be point guard. Have you guys seen this? Please discuss this buffoonery before you end your stream today, please. He's Korean, FYI. Who?
Seen what?
Who?
We got to know.
Yeah, let's go back up. Yeah,
I don't see anything in the chat.
new comment. YouTube link. Can you link it in the chat? We'll talk about it. Curry is top 10 all-time players ever, or top 10 point guards?
Sounds like players ever.
I think you're wrong. Players ever. Oh, 10, yeah, okay. But I would place him 10. I don't I and then maybe I'm being too harsh because I'm trying to compensate too much for recency bias, but I don't think he's top. I would say top 10 is about where I'd put him. Name me a better point guard. Overall, I would say that Isaiah Thomas is a better point guard than Steph Curry for what you want your point guard to do. He's a better defender, and he's a better distributor. He's not as good a scorer for sure, but I don't need my point guard to be my best scorer. Scramble info. That only works because of his three, right? So if he were a normal 3-point shooter, then that wouldn't work. Now, of course, Curry having his three that's his defining trait, right? But I think that his scramble and his handle is not that great. Kyrie has there are a lot of point guards that have better handle than Curry. I think he is a bit underrated from an inside game, right? I think he's more clever finishing at the basket than people give him credit for. But I wouldn't choose him to run my offense. I don't think he's as good at that as other guards in the league. He can just score the lights out. That's and he's had a better team around him, and better better teammates. Yeah, no doubt. Offensive output, he's going to be on top, no doubt. I mean that's not no question. But if I were to put an all-time team together and say how am I gonna try to put this team together to beat every other team that's ever out there that you could possibly choose, I'm not choosing Curry. Because I think you could put someone like a Scottie Pippen or Jordan, or I think Isaiah Thomas could D him up and shut him down. Yeah, he's a good passer, but he's not the best passer ever. Even in prime, I would not choose him first. If you're going to do a theoretical, hypothetical, pickup, okay, you get the first choice of the player. I wouldn't choose him. No, I think Isaiah Thomas could guard him one-on-one. No cover, no double teams. I think Isaiah Thomas could cover him. I think Gary Payton could cover him. I think Michael Jordan could cover him, smother him. I think Pippen could do it. They're much longer. I mean, they're much bigger, and they're just as quick. I don't think Jordan would see that he could shoot, and he would never get a 3-point off ever again. I think Kobe could lock him up. That's fine. I mean, you can think we're wrong. I'm wrong. That's cool. I think there's just a lot of recency bias. I think maybe I'm going too far the other direction and discounting him too much. Maybe that's fine.
See, now I wish I knew shit about anything related to this stuff beyond what I know from NBA Jam with a 95, 96 roster sort of shit, because I have nothing to contribute to this, so I can't even settle this. But I'd like to. Eventually.
I don't think zone defense. I don't think that's a difference, right? So yeah, 90s defense is all one-on-one. Okay, fine. Look back at how good people were able to defend, and they were able to defend all sorts of people, right? Curry is not someone who is putting up all sorts of and making all sorts of just contested threes all the fucking time. He needs some room, and he's not that good if just on his own making his room for a shot. it helps obviously because it's not just him on the court, right? It's not just a one-on-one game, right? So you've got other people who can space the floor. So you've got Klay Thompson, right, who's just as almost as good of a three-point shooter, right? So you can't leave him open. So certainly he's going to get his shots off. But like I don't think that it's just like you can't just be a scorer as the point guard, right? If that were the case, then like there were a lot of other people, like Pete Mrninovich would be the best. I mean, from college, there would be just more people on that list. He's good in ways that stats can't that, and that's what I'm saying about other point guards that like we might think that they came from a bad era or they wouldn't be as good. I just don't think it's a slam dunk choice, right? Like we know him, we see him, his highlights are everywhere. We were not alive, or I wasn't. I mean, I was alive for some of the 80s and 90s stuff, but we weren't alive to see all of that. I discount a lot of the assist numbers that people put up, whether they seem to be low or high, because you've got to look at all the other people on the court, right? So like you can make the best pass in the world and the guy misses a shot. You're not going to get an assist. That was still a good pass. You could make some of the easiest passes in the world, but the player that you're passing it to is really good, and they make the shot and you get an assist. Does that mean you're a better passer than the other person? I don't think so. I'm not forgetting how good MJ was as a passer. I don't know. People forget how good Isaiah Thomas was as a player. That's all I'm saying. The Detroit Pistons dominated the NBA for like 2 or 3 years, and it wasn't because they had a team of scrubs. They prevented some good MJ teams before Pippen, but some good MJ teams from winning. And Isaiah Thomas fucking shut him down. And if you're going to say that like Steph Curry could shut down MJ, no way. No way that's happening. MJ drops 50, and that's a bad night against Curry. That's a bad night against Curry. And I don't see it, man. I don't see it. Anyway, these debates are always fun because we can never actually see it happen, right? I agree. Team sport, it sucks now, man. It's highlight basketball. It's highlight basketball. There was a great video I saw recently about how sort of the mixtape culture has sort of really distorted recruitment for like the high school level and college players. So like not even that long ago, you had to actually be somebody to get like a mixtape, right? You couldn't just like hire a company to like put a mixtape together of like all your games and like highlights and put it on YouTube and get all hype, right? You had to actually have been someone that they were worth coming to like watch, and then you get a mixtape, right? So you were already really good and highly regarded, and then the mixtape was just fuel to the fire, right? But now anyone can pay somebody to put a mixtape and then put it on YouTube and then try to hype it up by like paying for advertising or whatever, right? And so like kids are playing towards the highlight and like, oh, I hit a 3 and like I'm gonna like celebrate after every fucking basket. And I think it's really changing the way some of these players are coached and develop as players, and they don't know how to play the game of basketball. And then they don't even go to college where they might learn it. Then they go to the NBA and they literally have to learn like the fundamentals of the game, because even if they're playing like high level AAU ball, they were probably always the best player on the court. So they never had to like learn how to play as a team or learn how to defend or any of that stuff. And a lot of the coaches don't do anything other than be like, all right, go on the floor and do your thing. And they used to have to go to college, and then in college they might be forced to
Mm.
do some of that stuff, right? Learn some of that stuff. But now they go to the NBA and they're literally so like they're wasting their talent. This would be very pathetic. I I don't think that would actually be fun to watch, dude. But there was this there was just a great video about this. I'm not going to take the time to find it, but they were just talking about how it's like, you mean fun? It might be fun because of the trash talk. We haven't seen the YouTube.
Yeah, we
one.
haven't seen the link.
You know what? Let's go to the YouTube video directly, and maybe we can see it. Go to YouTube.
Yeah, I don't see it. I see the message. I don't see any URL or link.
It just
attached
says
to it.
YouTube. It just says YouTube link.
I don't know. It's not reformatting any links that I'm putting in, but
Yeah, maybe if you put it in the comments, we'll see it. Yeah, maybe if you put it in the comments. Oh. Oh, here it is. That Vince. Oh no, someone else just okay. Vince Dow for the win, yeah.
yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, no, the live streams don't have comments. That's so weird. Do you want to tweet it at us? Tweet the link at us. Excuse me. So that tweet it at us and we'll see it. Tweet the link. But anyway, negativity and truth. I love these debates, right? I love these like all-time debates. Especially with like sports I know a little bit about. I also, a really fun one to do is baseball because there's just so many positions, so many people on the teams. So like you have just a lot of things to debate. Basketball, it's not as fun because there are only 5, right? So it's not as many people to talk about, and it's not quite as long as history. And I do think that it's easier in a way to like directly, at least in some people's minds, I think you can delude yourself into thinking that you can directly compare all the eras of baseball all together because it's like it's the same, right? Like it's the same ball in the bat, right? But there are major differences. But those are the 2 main sports, like soccer too. But that's hard to talk about because it's so global. We're looking out for the tweet. Hopefully, we can see this.
I don't know, man.
Okay. Just did
I'm
it.
waiting. I'm waiting. Still don't see it.
Oh my god, Raid Shadow Legends just has the most thirst trap image in their Twitter ad. Oh, Raid Shadow Legends.
It's one of those games that I always hear about. YouTubers talking about it. Sponsored by.
I'm gonna
Never
mute it
even
so I
fucking
can-
seen it. Don't even know what it's like.
I'm gonna mute that ad so I can share it if I want to share this tweet. But did something happen? Did South Korea just recently like announce reparations they're gonna pay for like the comfort women and stuff? But Japan isn't. Like the Korean government is gonna like give support to the victims.
Yeah, basically the United States strong-armed themselves into the negotiations to say, hey, we're taking care of newspapers keep calling it a labor issue, a wartime labor issue, but what they're really talking about is the fucking comfort women. But newspapers keep calling it, this is a wartime labor issue that Japan and Korea are trying to hammer out. And yeah, Korea's going to pay reparations to the victims. So it's all over with. It's all settled. We don't need to talk
Are you
about this
serious?
anymore. Yes.
Fucking ridiculous, man. That guy has been for all of his right-wing fucking populist posturing. It's just one fucking big cuck to the Japanese in America, man.
Are you talking about Yoon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm real man. Hate feminists. Hate strong. And then all he does is fucking kowtow and like, do shit like this. And like on May 1st in his speech, he was like, we must
Okay,
forget the past.
I found the link in the email.
Oh, okay, great.
Let's see here. Well, first of all, it's got 12 million views from 2 months ago. I'll go ahead and share it. So, stop that shit. Present this shit. There we go. Can you see it?
Yeah, let's do it.
So before I even start this, I'm probably going to say this fucking sucks, and it's garbage, and I don't know anything about it. But I can.
Is this you, OG skate nerderism?
We're probably going to be able to tell in the next 10 seconds that it fucking sucks ass. But let's see.
What is he wearing? Anyway, okay.
Uh,
Expand it. Make it full screen.
Yeah. Full screen in that shit. And this is going
Alright.
to be garbage, but okay.
All right, so is it Asian?
Yeah, my son's so dumb.
I don't even want to discuss this. This is fucking stupid. I already know this is just like made for laughs for white people.
Just play it. Play it.
Oh my god. I don't even like discussing
I'm
shit
so
like this.
dumb. Yeah. My son's so dumb, IQ 21. He tried to make friends, but they call him Ching Chong.
No, it doesn't even fucking rhyme. Yo, I'm not gonna fucking watch this. I don't like giving my opinions on shit that's so dumb. That's not even worth giving my opinion on. This shit is fucking garbage. Fucking garbage.
It's not like the whole who's that guy whose like whole channel is like he's a stereotypical
Uncle
he does those
Roger?
skits. Yeah, the Uncle Roger stuff. Like that guy is funny.
Shut the fuck up.
That guy is hilarious.
Fucking
Not just it's not Uncle Roger, but it's like the guy who does the he's like the professional Korean, what was it? Korean professional Asian parent sketch. Asian Parent Punishment. The what's this YouTube channel? Stephen He. He's like the comedian who does like Asian Parent Punishments and all that stuff. Like he's funny because he's not.
He is?
Mocking.
I always thought he sucked ass, but you know
I think he's not like this guy. Like Stephen He is at least he's I think he's
Oh
aware.
no, dude!
of
I
it.
fucking hate this guy. I'm
You don't like
sorry.
him?
I have
I
to
think he's
disagree.
funny.
I fucking hate this. I fucking hate all these people that like, regardless of whether it's accurate or not. When the bit is the fucking accent, I can't fucking do it. I can't
don't-
fucking do it.
I don't think the bit is the accent for Stephen Hett. I think he's sort of it's an inside joke, like tongue in cheek. At least that's how I've for some of the ones I've listened to.
Yeah.
Like I don't think in my mind, I don't think he's mocking it to be like, look at these dumb Asian parents. I think it's more like for an Asian audience of like, this is sort of like the absurd stuff that we have to deal with, but it's like the Asian parent isn't even the butt of the joke a lot of the time. It's like the kid. And it's so absurd that it's like you can't take it. Like it's so outside the realm of like of reality that like it's just sort of like mocking, like self-deprecating humor. But I can see how people don't like it. Like I can see how people who don't like it. But it's so much different from this. This is just pure fuckery. Like they're not even the same in my mind. Like this is just so
my
much worse.
interpretation is that like, sure, there is some intention behind Stephen Hu's videos where, yeah, I guess it could be for Asian people, maybe. But
I can see why people don't like it.
I think it's fucking just like targeting the type of Asian people that are willing to make fun of their parents for laughs because they don't have anything interesting to say themselves. That's
True.
That's just me. And I'm very harsh on these content creators, these fucking Asian content creators. I fucking hate them all. I don't think I found a single one that I find funny in any way, shape, or form, except people I found on Twitter. So among people that we already hang out with anyway. So it's not even like they're viral and that like they're distant figures. I think everyone that I think is hilarious is like too small to go viral.
No, I hear you. I mean, I can see why people don't like Steven, but I don't see it as remotely the same as this motherfucker, whoever this guy is. But no, I can see how people. I mean, because it is sort of still using a bit of that Asian parent stereotype for like for a Western audience, right? And he's like huge. Like he's such a big channel.
Huge. He's like millions and millions of subscribers. Huge.
And I think that like his whole bit is sort of tired. That's all he does. So I wish that's just not my thing. But I don't think it's nearly as bad as this guy. But I can see how people.
I will concede that it's not nearly as bad as this. And I guess.
But like what? Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna comment on this. It is garbage, but it's viral. So I was wondering if you guys knew about it. Doesn't that say something that it's viral? I don't know, pretty fucked up. I mean, like, I'll say this. I've been seeing shit like this my whole fucking life. And it's just, this is no different than like the sorts of attitudes that made someone like William Hung from American Idol popular. It's always been there. It's really always going to be there. It's never going to be taboo. And it's always going to be successful if the audience targeted is white people.
Yeah.
So I guess when it comes to talking about, hey, this is pretty fucked up, don't you think? I'm like, yes, but it follows a trajectory that has been here for over a century. So like, I don't want to be too dismissive, but really at the end of the day, like I don't like engaging this stuff because it's so tired and it's so similar to all the same racist shit I've ever seen in my fucking life that I don't even like talking about it, because to talk about it would to make it seem like I care, and I don't care, because I just hate it so much that it's just like it's out of my perception. I know it's there. I talk shit about people that make that shit and the sorts of attitudes or the sorts of perspectives that allow this stuff to become viral. But at the end of the day, these individual examples are not things I get upset about, except seeing it and being like, oh God, now I have to fucking see this.
Yeah.
So
when we're watching it.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I think that's one thing we covered at the beginning of this stream, this podcast in general, is like, I'm sure plenty of other Asian American podcasts would be like, yo, look at this shit. It fucking sucks. Let's break it down. Let's go through all 2 minutes and 12 seconds of this and break it down. And it's like, I don't want to do that. This shit fucking sucks, and it doesn't deserve my attention because I'm smarter and better than that. And I'm no genius. I'm not a billionaire, but I'm fucking better than this shit. I'm not fucking wasting my time on this.
Yeah, I totally. And what else? I was gonna say something. I forgot. It's fine.
I just, as soon as I see someone that is like a fucking straight up sellout like this, I'm disgusted.
No, it's disgusting. And
I mean, just like all the shit that I dealt with as a kid, all these transcendent experiences and these revelations that I've had through being around Asian people, humanizing other Asian people, humanizing myself, and then to see this fucking shit, like, I'm trying to have hope in my life. So I surround myself with people that, you know, inspire me or like have lives that I would like to have in some fashion. But I do not want to spend any of my perception or any of my brain power perceiving any of this shit. It's fucking garbage.
totally.
That's it.
Totally. And
Worst.
I actually have to defend
Yeah.
William Hung, because for years and years I was like, this guy, he's like letting like self-mockery.
Yeah.
He never did anything like this, right? Like he was genuine. Like
Yeah,
he went up there and he was himself,
genuine.
right? And other people were mocking him and using him, but he never went up there and like made fun of himself and other Asian people and try to like put on an act. Maybe I don't think it was an act, but like he didn't try to go up there and do something like this where like I'm going to sing a song using all the stereotypes and the voice, and that the voice of his was real, right? Like the way he talked.
Yeah.
So I have to defend, like, and you know, I have to defend William Hung, right? He was genuine, and you know,
I guess his presence says more about white people than it says about Asian people with internal self-hatred.
right, exactly. And this guy is not William Hung, right? Like William Hung was like not bad for Asians. Like the way he was used by like American media was bad for Asians, but you know, like Hung was not himself sort of trying to, you know, perpetuate any bad Asian stereotypes. But this guy is just, I don't know what he's doing. Like, what's the point of this? And the more I think about it, like, what's the point of even like Stephen Head having his channel and doing all that stuff? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
You know, like maybe if it was just an Asian audience or something, and we were just
if he
like,
was doing that all in
commiserating-
Cantonese or something, and
Yeah.
then, like,
Yeah.
you know that one pair of like there's that guy and that girl, and he's teaching her how to speak English, and
I haven't
he's
seen
saying
that
like
one.
finna go sleep, and like he's teaching her how to use like American
slang
English
or
slang.
something. But it's not
and-
even American slang; it's like black slang.
Yeah, basically. But you know, it's not problematic enough where black people got really upset. It was more just like, what a bunch of goofballs. But yeah, definitely better than shit like this because the audience was non-English speakers.
Yeah, but like, I kind of want to listen to the rest of it just to see how bad it is.
All right.
You don't have to. You don't.
No.
have to,
No. We're committed. We're
All
committed. And I got to 18 seconds before I got too mad. So I'll just play it until you tell me to stop.
All right. I might stop very.
Ton, body fat like Kim Jong. He's so ugly when he smile, he look like the King Kong. My son useless, can't play ping pong. He tried to get a date with the girl Soo Young, but she said hell no, cause he not that handsome. And my son so broke, can't buy the dim sum. Yeah. My son so dumb, my son so dumb. Yeah. My son is so dumb, yeah. He texts me, but she picked me. Too bad he broke, can't buy the milk tea. If he talk back to me, then he get his ass beat. Cause if you try me, then I do the Tai Chi. Just listen to your mommy and go eat the kimchi. Or I sell your kidney for $2.50. Do not think I forgot you got being Chinese. Ancestor look down on you, go say sorry. Yeah. My son so dumb, my son so dumb, yeah. My son is so dumb, yeah. My son so dumb, IQ 21. He tried to make friends, but they call him Ching Chong. He eat the wonton, but he fat like Kim Jong. He's so ugly.
Stop.
Okay. Okay, you know what this reminds me of? So like when I was a kid, you know, there were 2 or 3 songs that were just like really fucking racist towards Asians that I think a lot of people that have been watching this would remember. There was the Tie My Shoe one, like 39 cents at McDonald's, baby. That was the song. Then there was that song by CKY called the Chinese Rap. That's what this reminds me of. Can I show the
Yeah,
fucking
show-
CKY
yeah,
song?
yeah, show
'Cause
that
it
one.
reminds
I
me
mean,
exactly of that.
This is just. This isn't even like something where you take like a real world thing that happens, right? Which is like Asian parent. Yeah.
Okay, so
It's kind of loud. You might want to turn.
yeah, I'll turn that shit down. But yeah, this was just like a parody rap done by the band CKY back in like
Who's
2002.
CKY?
Some fucking band. I know that Bam Margera was closely associated with them.
Oh.
But here you go. Oh fuck!
Hey, epic music, let's go.
No, that's actually a good song.
You want to my devil sound? I'ma give it to you now. Who like my chopstick? Hit you in the shit with my little lipstick. Yellow, if you wanna see me, eat yellow. I never seen nothing like you before. I can kick you.
Awful rap. What-
I can kick you way up into a tree.
Who wants to taste of my oolong tea? Ho, chi, chi. Everybody in the phone book named Chang. Wanna see my rank? Never good going, hit the gong with a bang. What? Everybody wanna see me throw a fireball. But that's not right, not in real life. You will fall down and break your legs.
You get it.
What?
Same shit.
It is. Yeah. Like, I don't want to keep defending my my non-hatred of Stephen Heff, but
He's not anywhere close to. So yeah,
like the
When
thing
you-
is, right? Like for me, it's like you can make a case that there's a level where you're like, okay, there are Asian parent sort of things that
yeah,
happen.
yep,
And you can sort of satirize them for that in-group audience by just making them absurd, right? Sort of just taking it to an extent where it's like so absurd, but like everyone sort of gets the tone or the character of the sketch that you're doing.
yeah.
And everyone laughs because they know it's an exaggeration, but it's sort of true in real life a bit. And it's just everyone sort of in this in-group in the community laughing. And if it's really clever and really good, then it even says something about like that condition, right? Or why that happens, or it says a little bit more. It's like a commentary on it, right?
Yeah.
That viral video of
12 million views in 2 months.
if Asian parents rapped or whatever, that's not that. Because no Asian parent actually thinks that or says that stuff.
And this fucking accent, I don't know where this fucking accent comes
yeah,
from.
they don't.
Does it come
No one
from, like-
sounds that way.
Does it come from like Vietnamese people in like war movies? Because that's the only fucking thing I
Right.
can think of. Because Chinese doesn't sound like that. Korean doesn't sound like
They
that.
don't sound like
Japanese
that at
doesn't
all.
sound like that. So I don't know anyone that's ever had that accent in my life, although I haven't really met too many Vietnamese people. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, that seems to be, I don't know, like the Full Metal Jacket type shit, you know, just things
Yeah.
that people get from pop culture and sort of just like take it from there. But this accent that we've heard thousands of times in other places, just being really racist as fuck, I've never heard that shit in real life. I haven't.
No,
Haven't.
and using voices as comedy, right, is the most brain dead, lowest level, quote unquote, comedy that you could ever try to do. And I'm not. Am I surprised that it went viral and people like it? No, I'm not surprised by that. It's America, right?
Yeah, it's America.
You said it has what, 5 million views in the last couple of
12
weeks?
million in 2 months.
12 million?
Yep.
It seems, I mean, it's actually not that many in the YouTube world type of thing, but it seems like a lot for someone who probably doesn't have a big following, right? Like, crazy, man.
Yeah.
But who, like, I just what kind of mind puts that together and records the video and decides, fuck it, I'm gonna post it. Like, I just wonder what the mentality is sometimes of people like this, and like
It's got to
whether
be a
I'd be able to
self-hatred
tell.
so deep that you don't even acknowledge it as hatred. You acknowledge it as like, this is what is funny to other human beings, rather than this is funny to racist white people.
Or does he think he's doing something like does he think he's doing like an in-group satire critique type thing? Like, does he think he's doing something? Or I don't think he does. Like, I don't think he's thinking
I
like
don't
that.
think so. Like, I feel you can't post something expecting it to get a lot of views if it's only for Asian people. And I think, the
Especially
references
Asian
being made,
Americans, right?
these
Yeah.
dumbass elementary school jokes in the song, like, it's clear that he wanted to ingratiate himself with white people. And for that, I hope he goes to hell. Or as
Yeah,
Samuel L. Jackson says in that one movie, yes, he deserves to die, and I hope he burns in hell.
God, I agree. I agree. I mean, that's just crazy, man. I mean, I wonder if like I could tell if I met someone in real life, yeah, they might do something like that. Or is it sort of not something you could ever be
See,
able
that's
to
a good
detect?
question. That's a great question. Because I look at this guy,
Well,
or
he's got a punchable face for sure.
he's got a punchable face, but he looks like he could plausibly be someone that doesn't do shit like this. He looks like he could be a non-native English speaker, as a matter of fact. Like the hairstyle and the clothing style, it doesn't look like he's not like me when I was white aspiring, when I was wearing like Abercrombie and Fitch and mixing and matching it with like skater clothes and shit. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think you can really tell anymore. I think it's
No.
just so deeply ingrained in Asian people that live in the Anglosphere that this is just what happens. And it's up to people like us to be like, no, fuck that shit. Fuck that shit. It sucks. Turn that shit off.
God. Yeah, viral. Yeah. Oh, there are people commenting. Comments are.
Yeah, even if
comments
they're
are
Asian.
cancer, man.
I mean, the Asian people that would watch that at all and leave a comment that doesn't say you're a self-hating piece of shit that has nothing to offer to the world are self-hating pieces of shit themselves.
Yeah.
Not worth listening to. Don't have opinions that are interesting or in any way intriguing to me. They've probably never been to Asia. They've probably never met an Asian person except for their parents, and they're embarrassed of their parents. And they probably want to never marry an Asian person because they remind them of their brother or sister. So I don't fuck with that shit. People that are like that deserve to die and burn in hell, as Samuel L. Jackson would say. But that's me. That's me after 30 plus years of like dealing with this place and being like, fuck this shit. Send me back. I don't want to deal with this. I want to be like talking shit on Twitter 3,000 miles away from this place. I'm moving on my chips. As soon as my mom is like, in heaven, bless her. As soon as she's gone, I'm out. I am out. I am moving all my chips. I am repatriation gang. I do not want to be here. That is something that I am committed to. I understand that, certain people don't necessarily have that plan in mind because of entanglements or obligations or relationships they have here. But I don't have that. I'm going back. And this place has nothing to offer me. I've been on the East Coast, West Coast, North, South. I don't like any of it. Even the worst parts in Asia are better than the best parts of the United States for me individually. So that is my aspiration. And that's who I like to speak to when I'm talking my shit on Twitter. So that is me.
Sweet. Yeah. It's definitely complicated.
It's complicated.
What? South Korea gets a Biden state dinner and makes a deal with Japan. I need to look
Yeah,
this up.
we need to talk about that a little bit next time. I mean, I haven't read a ton
Yeah.
myself.
We need to yeah.
But yeah, the
Just-
fact that it keeps getting framed in news stories as wartime labor dispute. They don't say a goddamn thing about comfort women, let alone describe what comfort women are. So, and I guess victims are going to get reparations, but Japan's not paying for it.
Japan needs to pay for that shit.
And the only time Japan has acknowledged any of that shit at all was when they had a socialist prime minister briefly for like 2 years in the 90s. That was the closest thing they ever got to any sort of acknowledgement at all. So, I have, Japanese friends, things like that. There's no denying that. I have experiences in Japan that mean very much to me. But fuck the Yasukuni Shrine and fuck the Japanese Empire. And that's my take.
Absolutely.
Japan, you can come after me and we can hash it out. But fuck the Yasukuni Shrine.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is always true too, right? They kept the collaborators in power, and I think Yoon and a lot of the Korean conservatives come from that power base, right? From that tradition. I went back, FYI, but the complexities. What are these complexities that we're going to share? What is the topic? Kyle, you were talking about wanted to go back. Is that what it was, like, or live there?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
what I was generally talking about. But I guess it's something that we can say for another conversation in detail. And
Yeah.
you know what's funny is like we start this and we got like 0 to 1 to 2 people like for the first hour and a half, and then all of a sudden we have like our biggest numbers when we're like 2 or 3 hours into this shit. It's just very funny to me. And it's just like, oh,
I think the
who
West
knows what kind
Coast
of
is
questions
waking
they
up.
might have or what kind of inspiration they might get. But we're about to end things anyway, so I'm just glad that we have a higher number of viewers at all.
Okay, yeah. So going back to H. Okay, yeah, that's something we should talk about. I do want to talk specifically about. I need to read more about this particular thing that happened with the comfort woman and the other, the continued sort of shenanigans and situation with that in Japan and the U.S. And also, I would like to talk more about, like, I think the citizenship stuff, right? So like that's another always big topic to talk about.
Yeah.
But just the last thing to say about, like, I think that for as independent minded as the Korean government might want to be,
Yep.
and they don't have anyone in there that really wants to be that independent, like, but even with like Moon, right? He could still be president. And I think that the US under Biden and every other president is going to try to pressure Korea, Japan, and Vietnam, the Philippines, and other countries in Asia to fall in line with the U.S. against China.
Yeah.
And to do that, one of the pressure valves specifically between Korea and Japan is that, the whole comfort woman thing, a lot of the, the 20th century, the late 20th century, or the whole 20th century sort of history, right? And they're going to, and the U.S., they're not going to go in and pressure Japan to do anything, right? They're going to go in and pressure Korea to make concessions.
Come on, be chill about it. Be more chill.
Right, exactly. And
that was so long ago. Remember when you bombed us? We forgave you for that.
Korea? I get it.
Oh no, Japan and United States, but whatever.
But Japan, but the U.S. doesn't need to like convince Japan of anything, right? Like they were defeated in war. Like Japan's the U.S.'s little bitch. All right,
basically.
When
I see like countries in Africa standing up to like the EU and the United States now, I'm like, thank God someone's standing up to them, because Korea and Japan right now sure the fuck are not.
Right.
And it's clearly a racialized conflict. That's what these naive politicians that are puppets of the American government don't want to acknowledge. I guess regardless of where they are.
They have to know there's some of that, right?
Yeah.
But they don't feel they have any power, right? Because they really don't want to have anything to do with China.
Yeah.
And be that as it may, I I think the Japanese government will get some concessions from the United States on stuff that doesn't matter. Like we're having a little debate or discussion about, like, I think there was like a rape case or murder case for like an American GI, um either raped or did some sort of violence against like a young, like, teenage girl
Yeah.
in Japan. And the populace as a whole is pretty pissed off at that. And then we're sort of wondering, like, is the Japanese government going to really stand firm against the US, or is the US going to sort of back off? And my first instinct was like, why would the US back off? Like, why
Yeah.
would the US let Japan punish the soldier? But at the same time, like, does it really matter? So, like, for the US, they might back off in that situation and be like, all right, yes, we're going to let you get a win, let the Japanese government sort of save face and make them look good domestically to their base.
Yeah.
With the concession, or with the expectation that then the Japanese government will sort of play ball more, or
Yeah.
maybe something like that.
Those bases are still in Okinawa and
Right.
in mainland Japan. So
Right.
I don't know.
And with Korea, like, it just seems like there's no backbone to sort of have an independent Korea. Like, Moon had had some of that instinct.
Yeah, there's some of
Like,
that reconciliation.
And now it just seems like completely like a Korea US. We're gonna do whatever we need to do. And the don't care if the people in Korea don't like that we're doing this, right? And I don't know how much real room Korea has to be, grow a backbone. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know whether, like, basically, unless we do have to choose, right? There has to be some sort of choice between China and the United States. And I think Korea is going to try to walk that tightrope, because they're never going to just not trade with China.
Yeah.
Like, there's still a lot of, like, industry and business that Korea does in China. Like, they sell a lot of cars and all that stuff. But at the same time, there's also strong ties with the United States. So hopefully they can keep walking that tightrope. But this is something that, Korea's done forever, right? Korea's always been small and, like, between lots of powers. So
Yeah.
but it does piss me off when I see the Korean government agreeing to stuff like this, to the detriment of people in Korea, right?
Yeah. And in complete disrespect and disregard for history.
Yeah.
Their own history.
Yeah, because Korea has their own history with, like, the US doing stuff to their citizens and not getting punished, right? And Blowback is an amazing podcast. Third season was all about the Korean War. I learned a lot about the true history of what was happening and the context around it. Great podcast. So
I still need to listen to season 3. So shit,
Yeah.
I don't even know very much about the Korean War. Thank you very
Oh.
much, United States of America. I don't fucking know shit
you
about
have
the
to
place
you have
that
to
I was
listen.
from, that the US fucking destroyed and killed like 20 to 30% of all the people.
You
So-
have to listen to this. I
Yeah.
think it's really great. Tim Sharrock, who's sort of a friend
Oh,
of
yeah,
Plan
that
A and the
guy. Yeah.
podcast, and
He's great.
He's an amazing reporter, historian, and he's in that. He's in Blowback a bit. I've read a lot of his reportage over the years, and he's almost like a true expat, in a sense that, like, he's probably spent more time, the majority of his life in Korea and Japan versus in the United States.
And he's not a sex pest. So
No.
that in and of itself deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah.
So, shout out to Tim.
And it's just it's a very interesting time in Korea right now. In Korean politics and Korean society is really going through a transition. In the world, it just seems like the world's on a precipice, in a sense, in a lot of ways. I don't think, like, we're on the cusp of shooting of a hot war between China and the United States and Russia and all these people, but it just seems like there's a lot riding on the line.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be a lot of escalation in other realms to make up for the fact that it would be very fucking stupid to have a hot war between two very large powers.
I mean, oh, yeah. Yeah. It's always kind of dumb, right? But people do it.
And thank you, OG Skate, Nerderism. I appreciate you coming in as a new listener, and the fact that you know, you sat through me yelling at how much I fucking hated that video, because it had nothing to do with you or nothing to do with what you think. I think probably the same exact fucking thing. I just get triggered by really stupid people in our diaspora. They make me sick. So,
Definitely.
but there'll be more talking about that soon.
I think the risk of war with Russia and NATO is much higher than people think. Yeah, I mean, that certainly could be true too.
I mean, with a live conflict in Ukraine already, yeah, I think it makes it a lot more plausible. Definitely.
But I think I think NATO is just going to back down. I don't think NATO will engage. I think Russia, and I don't think Russia really wants to engage with fight the rest of NATO. Do they really want to fight against Germany and United Kingdom? Like, Ukraine's one thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, man, because like we're seeing it, and we're like, Russia should have crushed Ukraine a long time ago if it was really going to escalate much further than that. But who knows what could happen? I have no idea.
Who knows? I really think it'd be dumb as fucking hell for the United States to want to provoke military actual fight with China, but who knows at this point, man?
I don't know, man. Like, I feel like at this point, like having lived through the WMD shit in Iraq, I'm like, shit. As dumb as anything is, anything can happen. So I'm just praying, have my hands together, hoping that we don't do anything that dumb. But who knows?
Have we? I can see where you're coming from, right? Like, the Democrats have made a big show of this, and we've sent some material, right? But we haven't sent any troops. None of the NATO nations have sent any troops that I'm aware of. They've only sent money and war equipment. I think one scenario I could see, right, is because we're coming off of a lot of fighting, right? The United States, right? Afghanistan, Iraq, and our soldiers are tired, right? And the U.S. public is war weary to a larger extent than it's been in a while. So I could see that maybe we are preparing for this, but we've got to like prevent delay the start of it for as long as possible, right? To sort of recover as much as we can. And then maybe we will. Maybe we will then go to war. Yeah, but that's not people, right? Intelligence is not people. Logistics is not actual boots on the ground. And weapons are not boots on the ground. That's different than having battalions and people, soldiers getting shot at. I think you do have a point in that we've staked our prestige, our honor on it. We've made it a clash of morality and greater good and all that. But are we really willing to I don't know.
I don't know either.
We have Americans unofficially as advisors. Is that? Okay. Yeah, I mean, is that like CIA and stuff, like army intelligence? All right, military intelligence. I mean, but this, yeah. So I mean, this could be something that becomes like Vietnam, right? That's how it started for the U.S. in Vietnam, right? and probably in Korea too. Like it seems like everywhere this is how it starts, right? We sort of advise, and
Yeah,
so
no,
slowly
exactly as you say.
it builds, right? Yeah, it could be true. Maybe we're. I just think it'd be so fucking dumb.
A lot of things would be very fucking dumb, but then again, we live in the country that did absolute fucking jack shit in regards to responding to COVID, so who knows? You know, we got people still dying from COVID, but we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine for some reason. You know, I think at this point, even a lot of Republicans are fucking like, what the fuck are we doing? So
A lot of them are. A lot of
yeah,
them are. I
it's-
don't think their motivations are the same.
Yeah,
as what
I don't think
would
so
say
either,
what
but
the fuck we're doing, but they're
shit.
the ones saying it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But the U.S. didn't enter World War II, right, until we were attacked.
Yeah.
There
directly.
are people who will say that we were planning on it, so we would have done it anyway. But we waited a while, right? So we weren't
Yeah, a
doing
good
it
few
because
years.
we didn't do it because like we wanted to save the world. Like we saw that it was going to
Despite
eventually
what
come
Noah
to our
Smith
shore.
says.
Right. It was eventually going to come. Like we're going to get involved. Oh yeah, we're not sending money. I didn't mean like we're sending actual bills, right? We're just loaning them. We're going to own Ukraine, right? We own Ukraine. Just like
Already.
we owned Europe after war. We owned the United Kingdom after
Marshall
World War
Plan
II,
2.
right? The Lend-Lease Act and Marshall Plan, right? Yeah, World War III, and we have nukes, right? So the U.S. might have was probably smart enough to know that like World War II was not going to be contained just to Europe. It was going to go to other places, right? And that eventually the U.S. homeland could be attacked, right? So I think that we were prepared to enter a little bit before we wanted to, but it wasn't like, oh, we weren't going to be entering and then suddenly we decided to enter, right? Like we entered, and we entered big when we entered. So it wasn't like, you know, we were planning on it. Yes, but that wasn't the prevailing attitude right away. Some planned pretty early, but there was a lot of resistance to it, right? And we didn't enter to like save the world, right? We entered it because we wanted to save ourselves, which is a fine motivation, right? I mean, that's a basic good motivation, but we didn't do it because we needed to save the world from the Nazis because they were evil, right? Yeah. So I think that's with at least my understanding, my instinct in my remembering is that it was more because it was a threat to us, and we also again, we didn't want to be under anyone's boot more than anything else, right? Because it wasn't that like, oh, we needed to fight like some evil power. And I think that's sort of the myth of like we did this because of we were fighting the good fight against evil. We didn't even let like refugees come from like Europe, right? Like we turned away boats of like Jewish refugees from our shores.
Sorry, country's full.
Yeah. So, and we knew full well what was going on, right? Or had very good intelligence of what might have been happening. So certainly we might be sort of delaying it and preparing, knowing that assuming that it's gonna happen. So we might as well prepare, delay it, have it happen on our terms, and let other people fight and die as much as possible before we have to get directly involved. That's why, like, I think that's one motivation, I think, for them trying to like goad or to trump up this idea that China is going to invade Taiwan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can somehow trick or goad China into attacking Taiwan, then you can justify your response to that you were preparing for all this time anyway, right?
Yep, perfect opportunity to make an entrance.
So you're not the first strike. You're always, I'm just defending, right? And they've lied about this stuff before. I mean, Gulf of Tonkin was a complete lie.
Yeah.
Complete setup. So the U.S. knew for a fact that they were not the Vietnamese did not shoot at us. And they knew that we had provoked any sort of response from them, and that even if there had been a first incident, the second incident was basically made up. So like we do not have any qualms about lying to start it. The conditions in camps in the final, yeah, it was well known during the war via intelligence channels, right? So we knew about it, and we knew that like the refugees coming in were fleeing that final solution. So we turned them away, knowing that, right? You would hope not. You would hope not. You would hope not. But again, we might, I mean, who knows? Yeah, I mean, I think there's a problem of our projection of power, though we do build up. We have a lot of bases in Asia, right? We have a lot of personnel and equipment. But again, like we don't have as many people that we could of our out. Like we don't have enough. We have to project our power there. And China has a lot of attacking. China is not attacking fucking Iraq.
Yeah, or Afghanistan. Shit.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think the U.S.
Not the best track record with overwhelming victories against people that were not nearly as well equipped. So
yeah. But who knows? I mean, we're not experts. So this is just us. I'm just
we're just two
bullshitting.
fucking guys, not historians, not academics, but we do have better takes than a lot of the China watchers out there. So maybe it's a wash.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the U.S. can't do much. They're going to have to rely on the PLA or the Taiwanese army, right? And
yeah, I think if that ever happens, there's going to be a lot of Gen Z Taiwanese students going to University of California, Irvine, as Alex would say. Shout out to him if he's still here.
So I don't know.
Yeah, no, dude. I think we got to end it because I really got to pee.
Yeah.
So
I got to go to bed.
But we had good talks, and you know what? Like, your wife is probably like, why hasn't he been in bed for the last like hour and 15 minutes? It's
just
past 1 o'clock on a work day.
She's sleeping. I hope. All right. Well, and one thing I am doing, the World Baseball Classic is starting tomorrow, and Korea's playing in it. So I'm gonna watch them play Australia tomorrow with some friends of mine, with a friend of mine tomorrow. But Korea's playing it, Japan's playing in it, Taiwan, but they don't call it Taiwan. I think they go in as Chinese Taipei. We all know it's Taiwan. And it's going to be fun. It's the World Baseball Classic. It's like the tournament before the baseball season. And it's like all the teams, like from almost a lot of teams from around the world. Like even Israel has a team. But like Puerto Rico has a team, the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, like all the big powers, right? United States. So yeah, thanks everyone. And sorry guys.
I think he was saying like his questions were delaying us from ending it.
Oh no.
We're just chilling.
Not a problem.
I just have to pee now. So
yeah, the Australian team isn't good. Hopefully Korea spanks them good. But it'll be just fun just to hang out. It's always fun just to hang out, chill with a friend, watch some sports, drink a little beer. It's always fun, right?
Absolutely.
So we appreciate it. And we will try to be back next week, but we will let you guys know what day it'll be. Hopefully it'll be Tuesdays. I know we've done Thursdays sometimes, but we always try to do at least once a week. We try to do Tuesdays as best as we can. And we appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Until next time, guys.
Bye. Boom.